Hello, this is Whispers in the Rain. Welcome to tonight's scary story reading. One to keep you company as the storm rolls in. Comment where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Let the rain drown the noise of the outside world and let the darkness take over from here. The thing that watches. The move. The old farmhouse sat at the edge of a narrow road that wound like a serpent through the countryside, where trees leaned in too close and the wind always seemed to whisper secrets. The paint peeled in long, curling strips from the walls. The windows stared blankly outward, dust-covered eyes that hadn't blinked in decades. "Looks better than the pictures," Dad said, trying to sound optimistic. His voice echoed slightly in the hollow space of the front hallway. He jiggled the rusted doorknob, gave a forced twist, and pushed the door open. It groaned on its hinges like something in pain. You stood behind your mother, gripping the handle of your little suitcase. You were 8 years old, and though you didn't know the word for it yet, the feeling crawling down your spine was dread. "It's charming," your mother added, scanning the cracked ceiling and the long, dim hallway beyond. You stepped inside, and the house inhaled you. That's what it felt like. As if the walls took in your presence, as if something unseen noticed. "Let's go upstairs, champ," Dad said. "Pick your room." You hesitated, glancing at the long staircase ahead, with a banister curled up like a beckoning finger. The air smelled like mothballs and something older, something wet. At the top of the stairs, you turned left toward a narrow hallway lined with 3 doors. One of them stood slightly open. You paused in front of it. "Go on," Dad encouraged. "That one's got a view of the backyard." You pushed the door open fully. Inside was a small room with faded wallpaper. Toy soldiers marched in a repeating pattern across the walls, half hidden behind shadows and peeling corners. The window overlooked a tangle of dead trees and brittle grass. In the far corner, darkness pooled like spilled ink. You didn't want that room, but you nodded anyway. The room with the corner. You moved your suitcase into the room under your parents' smiling supervision, but already, something about that corner pulled at your attention. The shadows there didn't behave like normal ones. They didn't shift when the sun moved across the sky, even with your lamp on later that night. That part of the room remained unnaturally dim, as if the light refused to touch it. "Big day, huh?" Dad said, ruffling your hair. "New school tomorrow. New friends." You nodded, but said nothing. You were too distracted. The shadow in the corner had deepened since the sun had set. Mom tucked you in, her hands gentle as she smoothed the blanket across your chest. "You'll get used to it. Every house creaks at night. Just old bones settling." You wanted to ask her why the corner didn't settle, why it always felt like someone or something was standing just beyond the veil of sight. But you didn't. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered, kissing your forehead. "Leave the lamp on?" you asked. She hesitated for a beat, just one beat too long. Then she smiled and flicked the switch. The warm yellow glow buzzed softly. As the door clicked shut behind her, you listened to the sounds of the house. Tick, top, creak. Some came from the walls, others from the floor. One sounded like a whisper, though no words could be made out. You stared at the corner. Your eyes started to close. Then you snapped them open again. Something was different. The air had changed. Heavier. Still. Then you saw it. At first, just the shape of it. A figure, tall, unnaturally so, its shoulders hunched like it had been folded into a too small space. No face, just void where a head should be. You bolted upright in bed. Blinked. Gone. You didn't sleep much that night. When morning came, you swore you could see faint impressions in the carpet, as if something had stood there for hours, watching, whispers in the walls. School was a blur. You barely registered the classrooms, the introductions, or the curious stares from the other children. All you could think about was the thing in the corner. Its shape had lingered in your mind like the afterimage of a flashbulb, burned into the back of your eyes. When a school day ended, you almost didn't want to go home. But the bus wound its way back through the narrow country roads until the house came into view. The farmhouse looked even more isolated now in the fading light, its roof slouching, its windows blank. Inside, your parents were unpacking boxes in the kitchen. "How was your first day?" your mom asked, not looking up from a bundle of plates. "Okay," you said. Make any friends? You shook your head. No. She glanced at you then, her smile faltering. You'll settle in. It just takes time. You went upstairs without another word. As you stepped into your room, a chill raced across your arms. The corner was still dark, still waiting. You sat on your bed and stared at it. That night, you left the lamp on again. You were almost asleep when you heard the whispering. It came from inside the walls, soft, dry, like dead leaves brushing against each other. You pressed your ear to the wall. Nothing. But when you returned to bed, it started again. You closed your eyes, pretending you couldn't hear it. But the whispers grew louder. Not words, not at first. Just broken sounds, fragments of something trying to shape itself into language. Then a single word. Closer. Your eyes flew open. The lamp flickered. You sat up in bed, heart hammering, eyes locked on the corner. It was there again. Not moving, not breathing, just waiting, closer. You didn't scream. You didn't run. You couldn't. Something about the presence in the corner froze your voice, held you in place. The thing didn't move, but the weight of its gaze, or what you felt must be its gaze, was unbearable. It was like having a wet blanket laid across your chest, pressing you into the mattress. You pulled the covers up, inch by inch, until only your eyes peeked out. Still there, still watching. The lamp flickered again, dimming for a moment before buzzing back to life. And in that moment of shadow, you could feel the distance between you and the corner shrink, like the darkness had reached out and taken one long, quiet step. Your heart raced. "Mom," you whispered, voice shaking. Nothing. You tried louder. "Mom." Footsteps came fast on the stairs. The door burst open. Light flooded in from the hallway. "What? What's wrong?" she asked, rushing to your bedside. You pointed to the corner, but now it was empty again. Just the same pooling shadow. Silent. Still, there was someone there, you said. A man. Tall. In the corner. Your mother looked toward the corner, her brow furrowing. "There's no one there, sweetheart." Her voice was calm, but something in her eyes looked shaken. She flicked the overhead light on. The shadows retreated, banished to the edges of the room. "See? Just a dark spot." You nodded, even though you didn't believe it. "Do you want to sleep in our room tonight?" she asked gently. You thought about it. About the cold touch that had once brushed your leg. About the whisper. "No," you said. "It'll follow me." She blinked at that. "What do you mean?" "I think it lives here." She didn't answer right away. She pulled you into a hug and smoothed your hair. "I'll leave the hallway light on too, okay?" You nodded. But the moment she left and the door closed again, you felt it return. The air changed. The quiet deepened. And in the walls, the whispering resumed. Scratch marks. By morning, the whispering had stopped. The light outside was pale and sickly, filtered through heavy gray clouds. You waited until the sun was high before stepping out of bed. Your eyes darted to the corner. Empty. You exhaled, then crept across the room to investigate. The carpet was thick and matted, the color of dust. You dropped to your knees and ran your hand across it where the thing had stood. The fibers were crushed down, like something had indeed been there, heavy and unmoving. Your fingers brushed something rough. Scratch marks. You leaned closer. Thin gouges in the floorboard beneath the rug. For long lines, uneven, as if scraped by fingers or claws. You pulled the rug back further. More scratches, all running in the same direction. Toward the bed. Your breath hitched. You shoved the rug back into place and backed away, heart racing. You didn't tell your parents. You didn't know how. At school, you tried to focus, but every ticking second felt like a countdown. By lunch, your stomach was tight with dread. You barely touched your food. The other kids laughed and talked around you, their voices distant. Normal. Safe. You sat alone on the swing set at recess, letting the chains creak beneath you. That's when you noticed the girl. She stood by the fence, staring at you. Pale skin, black braids, and a serious expression. You didn't recognize her from class. She walked over slowly, never breaking eye contact. "You're in the farmhouse," she said. You blinked. "What?" "The one with the red roof. On the hill. You just moved in." You nodded cautiously. "How do you know?" She looked down at her shoes, scuffing the dirt. "My cousin used to live there. A long time ago. before he disappeared. You stared at her. Disappeared? She nodded. They said he ran away, but he told me something was watching him at night. From the corner. Your skin went cold. He said it got closer every time he blinked. The girl at the fence. You stared at the girl, unsure what to say. Her words buzzed in your ears, louder than the distant chatter of the other kids. He said it got closer every time he blinked. Your mouth felt dry. What was his name? Matthew, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He was 10. It happened in the winter. He told me the thing didn't like the light. He used to sleep with all the lamps on, but then they started going out. One at a time. You shifted on the swing. What happened to him? You asked. No one knows. One night he was just gone. My aunt said the front door was still locked. No broken windows. No footprints. Just gone. She looked at you then, eyes full of something between fear and pity. You should leave that house. I can't, you said. My parents just bought it. The girl looked back at the school building as the bell rang. She turned away without another word, walking quickly toward the crowd of children. You watched her go, trying to understand what she had told you. Your mind reeled with the images, scratch marks, whispers, flickering lights, and a boy who had vanished. You hadn't told anyone about the shadows in your room. But she knew. That night, dinner tasted like cardboard. Your parents chatted casually about unpacking the attic and getting a new coffee maker, but their voices felt far away. I met a girl at school, you said suddenly. Mom looked up. Oh, what's her name? You paused. I didn't catch it, but she said her cousin used to live in our house. Your father frowned. That's odd. The real estate agent didn't mention anything about a family with kids. She said he disappeared. There was a beat of silence. Don't tell stories like that, your mom said gently. It's not nice. You probably misunderstood, but your dad was quieter. You saw something pass across his face. What was his name again? He asked. You met his eyes. Matthew. He didn't say anything after that. Just looked down at his plate. The cold spot. That night, your father came into your room before bed. He leaned against the door frame, arms crossed, looking around in a way he never had before. You said the girl's cousin lived here? He asked. You nodded from under your blanket. She said he was 10. His name was Matthew. She said he saw something watching. Your dad didn't smile or laugh it off this time. He stepped fully into the room, his eyes scanning the walls, the ceiling, the darkened corners. Do you want to sleep in our room tonight? You shook your head. It follows me. I think it wants me alone. He didn't respond to that. Just placed a hand on your lamp and fiddled with the switch. This thing been flickering? He asked. Only when it's close. He looked over at you, and for a second, you could tell he wanted to say something. But instead, he just said, well, if you get scared, come wake me up, okay? You nodded. He left the door open a crack. You lay back and watched the ceiling. The corner was darker than ever tonight. The shadows, they didn't just sit, they moved. Just slightly. Like breath. You turned on your side, facing away. That was a mistake. The moment you turned your back, the air in the room dropped. A sudden, biting cold swept across your back, like someone opened a freezer behind you. You held your breath. Then you felt it. The mattress dipped, barely but enough. Just enough to know something had shifted behind you. You didn't move. Couldn't. Your heart pounded in your ears. It was right there, inches away. Breathing slow, uneven breaths. The sound so quiet you couldn't tell if it came from the room or your own imagination. A whisper reached your ear. Wet, thick like something bubbling up from a drain. Don't turn around. Your eyes welled with tears. You stayed frozen until morning. And when you finally found the courage to roll over, the only thing left behind was a long, wet smear across your sheets. The attic door. You stripped the sheets from your bed the moment the sun came up. You didn't tell your parents why, just mumbled something about a nosebleed. Your mom washed them without question, but your dad watched you closely. That afternoon, he disappeared into the attic. You heard the ladder groan as he pulled it down, heard the thump of his boots overhead. Dust drifted down from the ceiling like snow. You crept up the stairs and stood beneath the opening, listening. There were no footsteps, just silence. Then, thump, a single sound, low and dull, like something heavy being dragged. You called up to him. Dad. Silence. Then he answered, voice strained. Yeah, Yeah, I'm Fina. Just checking some insulation. But when he came down 10 minutes later, his face was pale. His hands were shaking. You try to look past him into the gloom of the attic above, but he yanked the ladder up before you could see anything. It disappeared with a loud snap, and the ceiling panel shut tight. "What's up there?" you asked. "Nothing," he said too quickly. "Just old junk. Mice, probably. I'll seal it off." But he didn't look at you when he said it. That night, the thing came back. It didn't wait for darkness this time. It stood in the corner as the sun was still sinking behind the trees, outlined faintly in the dying orange light. You watched it through the reflection of your lamp, afraid to look at it directly. You tried to distract yourself with a book, but the words swam uselessly on the page. Your eyes kept flicking to the corner. The longer you looked, the more it seemed to twitch like a figure behind a rippling curtain. Then, all at once, the lamp died. Not a flicker, just gone. And the last thing you saw, before the darkness swallowed the room, was the shape unfolding, taller than the ceiling, arms too long, shoulders bent at impossible angles. Then came the whisper. The attic remembers. The crawl space. You didn't sleep. Not a second. You sat upright in bed with your blanket pulled to your chin, too afraid to even blink. Every time your eyes fluttered, even for a moment, you swore the shape in the corner shifted. Inch forward, closer. By morning, your body trembled with exhaustion. You stumbled into the kitchen where your parents were already dressed. Your dad had dark circles under his eyes. "I think something's in the attic," you said, your voice hoarse. Your mother looked up, concern wrinkling her forehead. "We already told you, honey. Just old pipes and mice. Nothing that can hurt you." Your dad didn't speak. "I heard it again last night," you added. It said. Then you found the crawl space. It was a low hatch in the far wall, smaller than a door, with a rusted latch. The wood around it was darker than the rest, like it had been soaked. You knelt beside it and pressed your ear against the hatch. Breathing. Not wind. Not pipes. Breathing. You stood to run, but the hatch creaked. It opened by itself. Inside, the space was tight and pitch black. Something moved within. You pointed your flashlight toward it, hands shaking. The light hit a doll. Old. Porcelain. Its face cracked down the center. One glass eye stared at you. The other was missing. You reached in, slowly, stupidly, and lifted it out. And carved into the wall behind it, etched in jagged lines, were two words. "I watch." Under the bed, you stuffed the doll into a cardboard box, slammed the attic hatch shut, and scrambled down the ladder. Your heart raced so fast it felt like your chest might burst. You didn't stop until you reached your room, shutting the door and locking it behind you. You paced in silence, trying to make sense of it all. The whispering, the scratch marks, the breathing behind the wall, the doll with the cracked face. The words carved into the wood. "I watch." That night, you left the hallway light on, the lamp on, even your closet light on. The room glowed like a hospital ward, harsh and cold. You thought the brightness might keep it away. You were wrong. It came again, later than usual. You had drifted into a shallow, restless sleep when the mattress jolted beneath you, like something had climbed on it. You woke instantly, paralyzed by a chilling presence. The lamp still glowed, but it was flickering, weak. Your skin tingled. You sat up slowly, and the flickering stopped. The corner was empty. No shadow, no movement, but the feeling hadn't gone. It was stronger than ever, like something coiled tight around your lungs. Then came a creak. Not from the corner this time. From under the bed. You froze. Every instinct screamed, "Don't look." But curiosity crept in like a poison. You leaned forward, heart pounding your throat, and slowly peeked over the side. At first, you saw nothing. Then a hand. It wasn't like a normal hand. It was long gray, stretched too far like melted wax molded into fingers. It pressed into the wooden floor like it was tasting it. You yanked back instantly, covering your mouth to stifle the scream. Then came the whisper, right in your ear. "Found you." You bolted from the bed, running straight into the hallway, tears streaming down your face. You didn't stop running until you reached your parents' room. Your dad was already awake, sitting up in bed, staring at the wall, as if he'd heard it too. The lockbox. Your mother stirred as you entered the room, rubbing her eyes. "What is it?" she asked, alarmed at the look on your face. It was under the bed. You choked. It touched the floor. I saw its hand. Your dad stood up without a word, walked past you, and down the hall toward your room. You followed behind him, trembling. He opened your bedroom door and stood still in the threshold. You expected him to turn on the light, but he didn't. It never used to come this close, he murmured. Your blood ran cold. He turned around slowly. When I was your age, I lived here too. Your mother gasped behind you. You told me, she started. I didn't remember until now, he said, rubbing his temples. Bits and pieces. Nightmares. My parents moved us out after my brother. He stopped. Your brother? You asked. What happened to him? He looked at you. He vanished. Same as Matthew. My parents said he must have run away. But before he disappeared, he started seeing something at night. Said it lived in the attic. Said it watched him from the walls. You stared at him, breath caught in your throat. Why didn't you remember this before? I blocked it out. Maybe it made me forget. Made you? Your mom said in disbelief. Your dad turned back to your room. There's something I need to find. He pushed the bed aside, pulled the carpet back, and began knocking along the floorboards until one made a hollow thunk. He pried it open with his pocket knife. Inside was a small wooden box. Dusty, padlocked. The wood had warped with time, stained dark in patches. He lifted it carefully and sat on the bed with it in his lap. I remember hiding this. I didn't know why until now. You sat beside him as he picked the lock. It opened with a snap. Inside were scraps of paper, crayon drawings of stick figures standing in the corner, a child in bed, the same words written over and over again in messy handwriting. Don't blink. Don't turn away. Don't let it touch you. Beneath the papers was something else. A tooth. Human. Your father stared at it for a long time. It took his smile first, he whispered. Shadows in the mirror. After your father placed the tooth back into the box, he locked it again and set it on his nightstand. No one slept that night. The house creaked and sighed as though it remembered everything your father had tried to forget. The next morning, the air felt heavier. Sunlight crept through the curtains like it was afraid to come in. You brush your teeth in the upstairs bathroom, trying to push the memories away when something caught your eye. The mirror. It shouldn't have shown what it did. In the reflection, behind you was the hallway. But the hallway wasn't empty. A figure stood there, tall, bent, unmoving. Its head was tilted as if it were listening. You spun around, nothing. You turned back. It was closer in the mirror, standing right behind you. You screamed. Your father ran to you, grabbing you by the shoulders. It was there, you cried. In the mirror. It was behind me. He stared at the mirror, his jaw tight. They always said it couldn't be photographed. But maybe reflections still catch it. He looked down the hall, then back at you. You said you saw a hand under your bed? You nodded quickly. He walked briskly to your room and dropped to his knees, lifting the bed skirt. He stayed like that for a moment, silent. Then he backed away slowly and stood up. It's hiding now. What is it? You whispered. His voice was low, something old. It feeds on fear, I think. And attention. Like if we look at it, he nodded. Or talk about it. Or believe in it. Your mom was downstairs, calling the realtor. We're getting out, she yelled up the stairs. I don't care what we lose. We are leaving. You felt a brief flicker of hope. But the lights flickered again all at once. And from behind the bedroom door, a voice rasped. No one leaves. Not yet. The one who stayed. Your mom dropped the phone. It shattered against the hardwood floor. She clutched the doorframe, her face white as snow. Tell me you heard that, she whispered. You and your dad both nodded. There was no more pretending now. The house had spoken. For the next few hours, your parents frantically packed suitcases. You sat in the hallway, hugging your knees, feeling the weight of the house pressing in on you from all sides. It felt like the walls were breathing again, slow and patient. While your mom emptied drawers, your dad pulled you aside. There's one person who might know more, he said. She used to live next door when I was a kid. Mrs. Kersey. Does she know about the house? You asked. She knows more than she should. He left and returned an hour later with an old woman in tow. She walked slowly, wrapped in a gray shawl despite the warm day, eyes sunken like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her skin was thin, translucent, like parchment stretched over bone. She stepped into your living room and immediately frowned. "It's still here," she said. "Do you know what it is?" Your dad asked. "I knew its name once. A long time ago. But even names can call it." "Call it?" Your mom asked. Mrs. Kersey nodded. "When I was a girl, a child disappeared from this house. Same age as yours. They never found her. The family moved, and no one talked about it. But I saw her once weeks after she vanished. In the attic window, just standing there. You swallowed hard. Do you know how to stop it?" She turned to you slowly. "You don't stop it. You outlast it." You frowned. "What does that mean?" Mrs. Kersey's voice dropped to a hush. "It can't kill you unless you're alone. It waits. It starves you of sleep. Hope. Until your fear becomes an offering. It watches until you can't take it anymore. Then it takes." She stepped toward your father. "It took your brother, and your parents moved to escape it. But always waits for someone new. Someone young. Someone curious." She looked at you. Your stomach dropped. "It likes you. It likes you." You backed away from Mrs. Kersey, heart hammering. "What do you mean it likes me?" She stared at you for a long time, her milky eyes locked on yours. "It watches many, but it chooses few. Once it touches you, there's a tether. You dream of it. You feel it in rooms where no one else does. You hear your name when no one calls it. That means it has marked you." You felt dizzy. Your father clenched his fists. "Then how do we break the tether?" "You can't," she said, voice like dried leaves. "Not in any way you'd want to." Your mother grabbed her coat. "We're done with this. I'm taking him to a hotel. I don't care if we have to live in a tent. He's not spending another night here." Mrs. Kersey turned slowly to her. "You can leave the house, but it's already inside him. The boy will take it with him wherever he goes." You felt the words like a punch to the gut. "No," your mother whispered. "That's not true." But even she didn't sound convinced. That night, the three of you stayed in one room together. The master bedroom. Lights on. No doors closed. No one wanted to be alone. You laid between your parents, their arms around you, but it didn't help, because the shadows still moved, and the house still breathed. You didn't fall asleep so much as blackout. Hours passed in a blur until a sound. You woke up to a soft, dragging noise. Not loud, just enough to raise the hairs on your neck. You sat up slowly. Your father was gone. "Dad?" You whispered. No answer. You gently peeled your mother's arm off of you and crept out into the hallway. The air was heavy, like walking underwater. The shadows seemed thicker. You followed the sound to the staircase. Then you saw him, your father, walking slowly up the attic ladder. He moved stiffly, like a marionette. His arms dangled awkwardly at his sides. His eyes were open, but empty, vacant, glazed. "Dad?" you whispered again. He didn't turn, didn't answer. He vanished into the attic. Then the hatch slammed shut behind him. Hard. So hard the ladder snapped and fell, crashing at your feet. "Don't follow." You screamed your father's name, pounding on the ceiling above, but there was no reply. The attic hatch wouldn't budge. It felt glued shut, as if something on the other side was holding it. Your mother burst from the bedroom. "What happened?" He went up. You gasped. He walked into the attic like he was sleepwalking. Then the door slammed shut behind him. She stared at the broken ladder, then up at the closed hatch. Her face went pale. "We're calling the police," she said, already pulling out her phone. "They can break the door down. They'll find him." But deep in your stomach, you knew that was a lie. Even if they came, they wouldn't see what you saw. They never did. The thing didn't want to be found, not by them, just by you. Your mom dialed, but the call didn't go through. She checked the screen. "No service." "It's the house," you whispered. "It doesn't want us calling for help." She ran to the landline downstairs. You followed her. She lifted the receiver, but instead of a dial tone, there was a voice on the line, dry, wheezing, familiar. "Don't follow him, or you won't come back either." She dropped the phone like it had burned her. Silence. Then a sound from upstairs. Scraping. Something was dragging across the attic floor. Then thud. 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 Like heavy footsteps. But they didn't match your father's stride. They were heavier. Hungrier. You both looked up at the ceiling, where the noise echoed directly above you. Then something started tapping from inside the vents. First one, then another, moving room to room, like it was crawling through the ducts. And then, your father's voice, muffled, Distant, but wrong. Come see. It's beautiful up here. You turned to your mom, terrified. That's not him, she whispered. That's not your dad anymore. Then came another sound, faint, almost lost in the house's moaning walls. Laughter, a child's laughter, the lost one's. You and your mother stood frozen in the hallway, eyes wide, listening to the childlike laughter echoing through the vents. It wasn't playful, it was hollow, artificial, like something trying to sound human. It's trying to trick us, your mom said. That's not your father. And that isn't a child. The attic door remained sealed above you, but the tapping in the vents moved steadily downward. Closer, slithering behind the walls, following no logic or pattern, like a predator stalking prey in a cage. Then, a whisper from behind the bathroom door. Help me. It was faint, broken, but undeniably familiar. Matthew, you breathed. No, your mother warned. It's not him. He's gone. But something inside you couldn't look away. Your feet moved on their own, step by step, toward the bathroom. The doorknob trembled ever so slightly, as if something weak and dying clung to it on the other side. You pressed your ear against the door. Please, the voice said. They're watching. I can't see. I forgot my name. That was the last straw. You threw open the door and found nothing. Just a dark, empty bathroom. But the mirror was wrong. It showed you standing there, but not your mom behind you. Instead, behind your reflection stood a row of children, all pale and motionless, their eyes sunken and mouths sewn shut with thread. And at the very back, towering over them, was the thing. Its face was not visible, only its long fingers, which rested gently on each child's shoulder. They all stared at you. Your breath fogged the glass, and the reflection didn't copy it. That's when you understood. This wasn't your reflection. It was a window. Something moved. One of the children raised their hand, pointed at you, and suddenly the mirror cracked from the inside. You stumbled back as thin black fingers began pressing through the glass, stretching it like jelly. Your mother yanked you out just in time, slamming the door shut. We have to go, she said. Not later. Now. But Dad, you began. If we stay, none of us are going to make it out. Do you understand me? You did. But deep down, you also knew he wasn't dead yet. And the thing didn't want you to leave without finishing the story. The house that doesn't let go. You ran to your room, yanked open the closet, and began stuffing a backpack with whatever you could grab. Clothes, flashlight, charger, the drawing of the black figure you made weeks ago. Your mom was already in the hallway with her purse and car keys, trembling but determined. We leave now, she said. Don't look back. You didn't want to. Every corner of the house felt wrong. The walls breathed. The air itself vibrated, almost humming with anticipation, like the house knew. Your mom flung the front door open, but there was no outside, just darkness, a thick, impenetrable void that swallowed the light from your porch lamp. The street, the neighbors, the trees, all gone. Only black, writhing emptiness. What is this? Your mom gasped, stepping back. Behind you, the door slammed shut. You ran to the windows. Nothing. No outside world. Just the same swirling dark beyond the glass, shifting like oil on water. The house had severed its last ties to reality. You weren't in your neighborhood anymore. You weren't anywhere. The house had become the thing. We're not getting out, your mom whispered. Then the lights went out, pitch black, and the breathing in the walls turned into a heartbeat. Thud, 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 steady, slow, hungry. Something shuffled upstairs. You turned on your flashlight. On the wall in front of you, fresh writing had appeared in red, long, looping script, as though drawn by a child's hand trembling from fear. We tried to leave too. Below it, another line. They're still here. And under that, a list of names. Some scratched out violently, but one stood untouched, perfectly legible. Yours. Your mom grabbed your hand and ran. The house groaned. Doors opened on their own as you moved, directing your path, herding you towards something, toward the attic. The ladder, broken before, now stood miraculously whole again, unfolded and waiting beneath the hatch. From above, you heard your dad's voice. Only was laughing. The room that remembers. You hesitated at the foot of the attic ladder, staring up into the darkness. The hatch above hung open now, a square of perfect black, like a gaping mouth waiting to swallow you whole. Your mom gripped your arm tightly. "We're not going up there," she said firmly. "That thing, it wants us to." But the laughter above, your father's voice, continued, slow and hollow, echoing down into your bones. It didn't sound like joy. It sounded like a man unraveling. "I have to," you said. "He's still up there." "No," she snapped. "That's not your father anymore." You stepped back, torn. The house shuddered around you, the lights flickering erratically, though they'd been out for minutes. Wind began to whip through the hallway, but all the windows were shut. The air grew colder, your breath visible even indoors. You took a step toward the ladder, then another. Your mom caught your wrist. "If you go up, I'm coming with you." You nodded. You didn't want to be alone. Not now. Not in this. The climb up was slow. Every step creaked, screamed, as if the wood were resisting your weight. Above you, something shuffled. When you reached the top, the attic was pitch black. Your flashlight struggled to pierce the gloom. And there he was, your dad, sitting in the far corner, his back to you, head slumped forward, whispering something again and again. "Dad?" You called gently. No answer. You crept closer, your mom just behind you, the floorboards bending beneath your weight. You could hear him clearer now. He was muttering, "Don't look, don't look, don't look." "Dad, we're here," you said, reaching for his shoulder. He turned, and you screamed. His eyes were sewn shut. Black thread pulled tightly across the lids. His lips, too, stitched closed in jagged X's. Blood had dried in dark trails down his cheeks, staining his collar. Your mom choked back a cry. But what made you drop the flashlight wasn't the horror of his face. It was what sat behind him. A mirror, tall, cracked, and in it, 100 children stood silently, each with sewn eyes and mouths, all staring straight at you. In the center of them towered a figure, long and thin, with arms that reached the floor. Its face was your own, smiling. Reflections of the taken. You stumbled back from the mirror, your breath caught in your throat. The smiling face in the glass, that was your face. But wrong. Its smile was too wide. Its eyes too dark. It mimicked your every move just a beat too slow, like it was learning. Your father shuddered on the floor. Then his voice broke through the thread, binding his mouth, ripped out with a wet snap. Blood poured down his chin as he croaked. "It's watching through you." You look back at the mirror. The children moved now, slow, synchronized. Some pressed hands against the glass. One opened its stitched mouth, tearing the thread with a sickening rip. From that child's broken mouth came a voice. "Trade places. Let us out." Your mom gripped your arm. "We're leaving. Now." She pulled you back toward the ladder, but the attic had changed. The ladder was gone. The floor beneath your feet rippled like water. The light from your flashlight died with a sharp pop, plunging you into suffocating black. Your father screamed. Something yanked him backward into the dark. You lunged forward, but your mom held you tight. "He's gone. He's gone." Then the attic began to shift, walls folding inward like paper, stretching and bending, reshaping themselves. You weren't in the attic anymore. The space had become a long hallway. No windows, no doors, just a mirror, now taller, reaching the ceiling. Behind the glass, the children began to walk toward you, and with them, the tall, thin version of yourself, still smiling. "Let me out," it whispered. "Just say yes." Your knees buckled. You could feel it pressing against your thoughts, a pressure behind your eyes like something trying to peel your mind open. Then your mother grabbed your face. "Look at me," she snapped. "That's not you. It's a copy. It's what it wants you to become." You nodded, shaking, but the figure in the mirror grinned wider. Its jaw began to crack open, too far, dislocating until it unhinged like a snake. Inside its mouth were more eyes, all staring at you. Then it charged. The mirror breaks. It slammed into the inside of the mirror with a bone-rattling crash. The glass didn't shatter, not exactly. It rippled like the surface of a pond, warping outward as if the creature was pressing through something almost breakable. Your mother screamed. yanking you back as spiderweb cracks bloomed across the mirror surface. From within, the thing clawed at the boundary. Its fingers were too long. The bones jutted at odd angles. Its arms bent backwards as it scraped at the inner glass, desperate to emerge. You turned to run, but there was nowhere to go. The attic, or whatever space this was now, had no corners anymore. The walls bowed in and out like a living throat. The mirror was growing, stretching across the entire wall, ceiling to floor. The stitched children pressed their palms against it. Some began to whisper, "Trade, trade, trade." Then something behind you, your father's voice. "Break it," he rasped, "before it gets through." You spun, heart racing. He stood crookedly behind a beam, his face pale, trembling, the threads gone from his eyes and mouth, but black stains remained, trailing from the torn holes. "Ow," you cried. "Break your reflection," he said. "It's your tether." You turned back toward the mirror. The copy of you, taller, smiling, eyes hollow and brimming with static, stared directly at you, unmoving now. Your mother grabbed a rusted metal bar from the attic floor. "Move," she said, and with a furious shout, she hurled it. The bar struck your reflection directly in the head. Crash! The mirror finally shattered, but not like any normal mirror. Instead of glass falling, screams poured out. Loud, hundreds of them. The voices of children, of your own, of others. The attic erupted with sound as if the walls themselves were shrieking. The children in the mirror contorted, twisting violently as the cracks consumed their world. The tall figure, the twisted version of you, began to flake apart, pieces peeling off like wet bark. And just before the mirror dissolved completely, it said in your voice, "This won't stop me." Then it was gone. The attic snapped back to normal. No mirror, just dust, cobwebs, a broken floorboard where the bar had landed. Your dad collapsed. You rushed to his side. His body was cold, but he was breathing. Barely. Your mom checked his pulse. He's alive. And finally, mercifully, a knock at the front door. The real front door. What came knocking? You and your mom stared at each other. A knock. 3 slow, deliberate thumps at the front door. Not frantic, not desperate, patient. "Who would even be out there?" you whispered. Your mom shook her head. "No one should be. Not after what just happened." You helped your father up, draping one of his arms over your shoulder. He was barely conscious, mumbling nonsense. Something about the walls watching, the attic breathing, the thread. The knock came again. Thump, thump, thump. This time, it sounded closer. Too close. "The front door's downstairs," your mom said, confused. That sounded like. You both turned your heads slowly to the attic hatch. Thump, 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 from beneath the floor. "It's inside," you whispered, though it creaked as something moved just below you. A slow crawl, dragging across old beams and insulation. You helped guide your father to the hatch, then down the ladder with your mom's help. Your hands trembled the entire way. Each creak of the ladder made your heart skip. Once downstairs, the house was quiet. Still, too still. You moved carefully to the front door, your mom behind you, holding a kitchen knife in one hand and your father's arm in the other. You expected to see nothing, but instead, a package, wrapped in brown paper. No labels, no stumps. Just a word written in red ink. Returned. You didn't want to touch it. Your mom looked at you uncertain. Then she crouched and gently peeled the paper open. Inside was your sketchbook, the one you'd thrown away weeks ago. The one with the earliest drawings of the tall figure, the shadow man, the thing you thought was just a dream. Only now, every page was full. Hundreds of new drawings. Pages you never made. Some showed your house in impossible angles. Others showed your room, your family, all drawn from above, as if someone or something had been watching you the whole time. And on the last page, in thick black ink, was a single phrase. "You broke the glass, but I am still in the walls." Your mom slammed the book shut. Behind you, the vents began to hiss. And from deep within the walls, a familiar sound returned. Laughing. The walls have eyes. The laughter crawled through the air vents like smoke. Dry, rasping, half-gurgled, almost human but not quite. It slithered through the house, echoing in every room, doubling back on itself, never quite fading. Your mom locked every door and window, though you both knew it wouldn't matter. The thing, whatever it was, didn't use doors. It was the house now. Your dad lay on the couch, sweating, murmuring in a language that wasn't English. His eyes twitched beneath the lids like he was dreaming, but every so often he would open them wide and scream before falling back into unconsciousness. You didn't know what to do anymore. The sketchbook sat untouched on the table. Its cover pulsed ever so slightly, as if it breathed. "I think we need to burn it," you said. Your mother didn't argue. She took the book out to the backyard with you close behind. The wind had picked up again, chilly, but still airless like something was holding its breath. She threw the sketchbook into the fire pit and lit a match. As the flame took hold, the pages curled, blackened. And then, from inside the book, came a piercing, shrill scream. It wasn't ink on the pages, it was something trapped. The fire danced violently, flashing green and blue, like chemicals were burning. Then something moved inside the flames. A long, thin shape, slithering like a serpent. You stepped back in horror, but your mom grabbed the garden hose and sprayed the fire. Steam exploded into the air, and the book turned to wet ash. Silence returned. For a moment, the house was calm again. No laughter, no movement in the vents. Just the sound of your father's strained breathing behind the glass doors. You almost let yourself hope. Almost. Until you heard something fall in your bedroom. A thud, then another, and then dragging sounds. You crept toward the house, but your mom grabbed your wrist. "It wants you to go alone," she whispered. You nodded, and then walked back into the house. Up the stairs. To your room. The door was ajar. Inside, something was writing on the wall. Written in shadows. You paused in the doorway. Something unseen moved inside your room. Slow, deliberate. The air was thick and cold, and the curtains hung perfectly still despite the open window. You stepped forward, flashlight trembling in your hand. Then you saw it. The wall opposite your bed was covered in words. Dozens, maybe hundreds, written in something that looked like soot or ash. Scrawled messages, overlapping and tangled, all in the same handwriting. Yours. But you hadn't written them. You moved closer, trying to read one. "I'm still here." Another. They can see through your eyes now. And another, smeared across the ceiling in long, jagged lines. "The thing that watches isn't outside, it's under your skin." A scratching noise came from beneath your bed. You froze, then, slowly, crouched down and peered underneath. Nothing. But when you stood, the door slammed shut behind you. You spun around, panic rising in your throat. A shape formed in the corner of the room. Not physical, a void, like the light itself avoided that space. You stared at it, heart racing, and it stared back. Two faint pinpricks of red blinked open in the dark. It moved toward you. No footsteps, no sound, just a shift in presence. You backed away until your legs hit the bed. It stopped inches from your face. You couldn't breathe, couldn't blink, couldn't scream. Then it spoke, not out loud. Inside your head. "You fed me well. So many nights. So many thoughts. You dream of me still, even when you're awake." Your hands began to shake violently. Your skin itched like something was crawling beneath it. "Let me out," it whispered. "Let me out, or I'll find another hole to dig through." Suddenly, the figure split into hundreds of tendrils, rushing toward you. You screamed, and then you woke up, on the floor, alone. The wall was blank. No writing. The curtains swayed gently, and birds chirped outside. But on your desk sat a sheet of paper. On it, written in your handwriting. "You let me out of the walls." You stared at the paper. The words seemed burned into the fibers, like they'd been seared there. Not written. Your fingers hovered just above it, hesitant to touch. You didn't remember writing it. You didn't write it. Your mom's voice broke the silence from downstairs. "It's time to eat, honey. Your father's awake." That chilled you more than it should have, because you knew something was wrong with your dad. Whatever had spoken through him, whatever stitched his eyes and mouth, hadn't left entirely. You folded the paper and shoved it into your pocket. At the table, your father smiled, but his eyes didn't match the curve of his mouth. They were vacant, as though watching from far behind his face. He was eating slowly, chewing too long, like he wasn't used to the motion. "How are you feeling, Dad?" you asked cautiously. He turned his head with an unnatural slowness. "Better," he said, voice flat. Your mom looked hopeful, her eyes tired and red. "He came down on his own this morning. No memory of last night, though." Your dad blinked. Slowly. "I remember the mirror," he said, then smiled again. "It let me see who I really was." Your fork froze halfway to your mouth. "What do you mean?" your mom asked. He didn't answer right away, just slowly turned his head and said, "I've been here before. In other houses." Your stomach turned. "What?" He looked straight at you, and for the briefest second, his face twitched. His features shifted too fast to track. His eyes turned pitch black, his skin pulled tight like something wearing it too small. Then it was gone. He was normal again, smiling. You push your chair back slowly. "I think I left something upstairs." You rushed to your room and locked the door. You pulled out the paper. On the back, a second message had appeared. "The thing you let out doesn't need to hide anymore." A gust of wind rattled your window. You turned toward it. There, pressed against the glass, was a face. Your own, but the eyes were red, and it was smiling. The face at the glass. It didn't move. The reflection, your reflection, stayed pressed against the outside of the window, unmoving, smiling. Its eyes glowed faintly red, and the longer you stared, the more you noticed things were off. Its teeth were too many. Its smile didn't stretch, it cracked. You stumbled back, heart pounding in your ears, but your feet felt heavy, like the floor itself was pulling at your legs. You glanced around your room for anything you could use, but when you turned back to the window, it was gone. No face, just the backyard, bathed in a pale, cold light. You let out a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. Then, top, you spun toward the closet. 3 knuckles. Light. Testing. You backed away. No. The door creaked open. Empty, but the smell that rolled out was wrong. Like mildew and rot. Like something had been hiding inside the walls for years, listening. The light bulb in your room flickered violently, and when it came back, there was a figure standing inside your closet. You couldn't breathe. It looked like you. Exactly like you. Except its arms were longer. Its smile was cracked wide and bleeding at the corners. Its eyes were wet holes that shimmered with worms of red light. It tilted its head, then stepped out of the closet. You screamed and ran. Downstairs, past your father, who didn't even turn. Your mother shouted after you, panicked, but you didn't stop until you'd burst out the front door into the fading afternoon sun. The light was supposed to be safe, but the sun looked wrong, too. It hung too low in the sky, too red, and the shadows it cast were long, impossibly long, like everything was stretched. You turned toward the street, and every house on the block had their doors open. Not a single person in sight, but at every doorway, a shadow, tall, watching, waiting, the street of open doors. The air felt brittle. You walked into the street, heart hammering. Every house you passed had its door wide open, revealing nothing but darkness within. And in each entryway, the same presence stood just inside, tall, unmoving, silhouetted against the black. All of them were watching you. No faces, just the sense that behind those open doorways, something was leaning forward, barely restrained. You stepped slowly, your shoes crunching the dry leaves littering the pavement. No cars, no wind, just the hollow hum of silence. Then from behind you, a voice. You can't keep running. You turned fast. Nothing. Not your mother, not your father. Just your front door now closed. The lights in your house flickered behind the blinds like something was crawling through the wiring. Another voice came from the opposite house. You opened the mirror. You let it wear you. A new one from further down the street. Now it's looking for more. They weren't human voices. They were your voice. Over and over again, spoken from mouths that weren't yours. Dozens of versions, raspy, broken, echoing from dark hallways, windows, vents. You ran. Your feet hit the sidewalk in frantic rhythm, but the neighborhood didn't change. House after house, the same open door, the same shadows, the same whispers. You passed the old corner store, shut tight, boarded up, but in its cracked front window, you saw your reflection running toward you instead of with you. You looked away. Your legs burned. You kept running. Until someone grabbed your wrist. You screamed, wrenching away, but the grip was firm, real. A girl about your age stood in the alley beside your neighbor's house. She looked shaken but awake. Her eyes darted up and down the street. "Get inside. Now," she whispered. "They're hunting." "Who are you?" you gasped. "Call me Ray. I've seen them before. You're not the only one." You hesitated, then followed her into the alley. Behind you, dozens of doors began to slam shut, one by one. The street went silent again. Ray's warning. You followed Ray deeper into the alley, your pulse pounding. She moved quickly, like she knew every step by heart. At the end of a narrow corridor between houses, she slipped behind a rusted fence and ducked into what looked like an abandoned shed. Inside, quickly, you hesitated for half a second, then stepped in. The shed was small but fortified. The walls were lined with foil insulation and scratched with symbols, protective circles, eyes, slashes. Candles burned in glass jars, casting flickering shadows over maps of the neighborhood. Newspaper clippings and dozens of photos pinned to the wood. Some of the photos were you, taken from across the street. Through your window, some showed you sleeping. "What is this?" you breathed. "They've been watching you longer than you think," Ray said, latching the door. "And not just them. The first one, the root." She turned to face you. Her face was pale, freckled, eyes dark with exhaustion. "I thought I'd lost them. I was wrong." "What do they want?" you asked, heart sinking. Ray sat on a crate and pulled a photo from her pocket. It was old, curled at the edges. In it, a younger version of Ray stood next to a house that looked almost exactly like yours, but not quite. "They want us." She pointed to the attic window in the photo. "They come from that place. Behind the walls. They take your voice first, then your name, then your shape. When they're done, they leave a version of you behind." Your mouth was dry. "You're saying they replace people?" "They did it to my brother." She swallowed. "He smiled at me one night, like he always did. Except that time, his teeth weren't right. He blinked at the wrong time. I knew. I ran." Ray pulled out a notebook filled with frantic handwriting and symbols. "There are ways to delay them, ways to fight, but it starts with knowing when they slip through." "You said you shattered a mirror?" You nodded slowly. "That's how they bleed into your world," she whispered. "Cracks, weak points, reflections, vents, dreams." The candles sputtered. You turned toward the shed door. From the other side came a low whisper. "Let us in, Ray." Ray's face drained of color. "They found us," she whispered. "Don't speak. Don't move." Outside, footsteps circled the shed. Then a new voice came, right behind the wall. Your voice. "Ray, I think it's safe now. You can let me in." The wrong voice. The voice outside was perfect. Same tone, same inflection, even the anxious rhythm of your speech, but you hadn't said a word. Ray didn't look at you. She stared hard at the door, not blinking, as if even acknowledging the voice might invite it in. It spoke again, softer now. "Ray, please. It's cold. I think something's out here." Then louder. "It's not safe out here. I think I'm being followed." The real you felt like your throat was closing. You wanted to scream, to shout that it wasn't you, that it was lying, but Ray just shook her head silently, one trembling finger to her lips. Your duplicate's voice began knocking, gentle at first, then harder, then a pause, and then it laughed. A low, bubbling sound, wrong, wet gurgling. The laugh morphed into a scratchy series of thuds, as if it were banging its head against the door. Then silence. You could hear Ray breathing, short and shallow. She mouthed the word wait. Outside, the footsteps moved away, but not toward the alley. Up. You heard them climbing the side of the shed. Ray grabbed your wrist. "Get down. Now." You both crouched, low, just as a shadow passed over the small vent near the roof. Something peered in. Its fingers scraped the metal grill with nails too long to be human. You covered your mouth. Ray whispered so softly you barely heard her. "It won't come in unless we answer. If it thinks we believe it, it takes root. So don't even think about it." Outside, the thing whispered again. But this time, it didn't use your voice. It used hers. "I'm sorry. I left the door open. Ray, it's my fault." Ray shivered, hugging herself. eyes shut tight. "Let me in, Ray. I am scared." "I'm you." Then a new whisper, one not mimicking either of you. Sooner or later, everyone opens the door. Suddenly the candles flared high, then extinguished. Darkness swallowed the shed, and from every direction, scratching began. Inside the walls, inside your ears, scratch in silence. The scratching came in waves. First soft, like fingernails testing old wood, then frantic, scraping at every corner of the shed. From above, behind, beneath the floorboards. Ray clutched your wrist so hard it hurt, but you didn't dare pull away. The dark swallowed your sight, but the sound was alive. Hungry. You heard breathing near your ear. Not Ray's. Something long and slow, dragging breath across your skin like a sniff. Then silence. Everything stopped. You and Ray didn't move. You couldn't. Then, knock, knock, knock from inside the wall. From inside, Ray jolted, scrambling backward into the far corner, hands over her mouth. Her eyes locked onto the back wall, where symbols had been etched deep into the wood. One of them, a jagged eye, was bleeding. Not ink. Blood. It dripped slowly down the wood in thick black trails. Your voice trembled. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer for a moment. Then, it found a crack. They don't just take shapes. They unmake the things that keep the world stable. If that sigil's bleeding, the boundary's nearly gone. You crawled toward the blood. It wasn't dripping from behind. It was weeping through the symbol itself. As you stared, the wood behind the rune began to bubble, like something was pushing through it. You backed away fast. Out the hatch, Ray hissed, grabbing your hand and pulling you toward a section of the floor. She peeled back a loose plank, revealing a crawl space below. The wood behind the rune split. A long black finger pushed through, gnarled, jointed wrong, twitching blindly. Then another. The thing began to push its face through next. You didn't wait. Ray shoved you down into the crawl space and followed, slamming the plank back just as the wall burst open above. In the dark beneath the shed, you could still hear it moving, dragging itself into the room above. And whispering, "You brought me with you." The crawl beneath. The crawl space was impossibly narrow. The air was thick with dust and the sharp stink of old earth and mildew. You could barely move without your shoulders scraping against the beams. But up above, it was moving. You heard its body dragging over the shed floor, wood groaning beneath its weight. Something long and wet slithered beside it, followed by soft, deliberate tapping. Like claws thinking, Ray's voice in the dark, "Don't breathe loud. It listens better than it sees." You both held still. The thing above let out a low, warbling chuckle, like it was mimicking a laugh it didn't quite understand. Then the footsteps began again, circling, testing the boards. You reached the end of the crawl space and found a rusted metal grate. "Help me," you whispered. Together, you pushed it loose. It fell outward into blackness and revealed a concrete tunnel beyond. Damp, cold, but empty. You slipped through first, then Ray. As soon as she was clear, she slammed the grate back into place and scribbled something over it with chalk from her pocket. The symbols glowed faintly, then faded. You turned to her, still catching your breath. "Where the hell are we?" "Old maintenance tunnels. Sewers, mostly. They run under the whole neighborhood. This one leads toward the old mill." "Why there?" She hesitated. "Because there's a door there. A real one, not one they made." You blinked. "A door to what?" "I don't know," Ray said, "but I think it's where they came through. Before it was sealed." You both began moving, the tunnel echoing your steps in eerie rhythm. But soon, there was another sound. Not your echoes. More footsteps. Behind you. Fast. Scrambling. And suddenly the lights, old utility bulbs that lined parts of the tunnel ceiling, began to flicker one by one, going out in sequence like something was chasing you just behind the dark. "Run," Ray said. "Don't look back." You bolted. Your breath thundered in your chest, the tunnel stretching long before you, blackness swallowing the light behind. But something laughed back there, your voice again, layered with others now. Voices stacked like broken records. You're almost home. You turned a corner, slipped, slammed into a rusted pipe, but Ray yanked you up. And then you saw it. At the end of the tunnel, a door. Old, metal, carved with dozens of symbols, glowing faintly blue. Ray reached it first and began unlocking the seals drawn over it with a piece of bone-white chalk. You look back. Something rounded the far corner behind you. Your own face stretched unnaturally wide, crawling over the ceiling like a spider. You screamed. Ray shouted, "Get in!" The door opened, and you fell through. The room with no angles. The moment you crossed the threshold, the world changed. The air inside the door wasn't like anything you'd breathed before. It buzzed faintly, like static pressing against your skin. The space ahead felt wrong. No corners, no straight lines. The walls bent in ways that hurt to look at. You turned, expecting Ray to slam the door behind you, but she froze. The creature had reached the threshold. It didn't cross. Instead, it hovered just outside the open doorway, its head upside down, limbs jutting out like broken marionette strings, body trembling with restrained hunger. Your voice hissed from its mouth. "Let me in." Its hand pressed against the doorway and sizzled. It recoiled instantly, howling not in pain, but in mockery, like the sound was just for your benefit. Then it whispered, "You won't stay in there forever." And it melted backward, like smoke reversing into a vent. Ray shut the door. The glowing glyphs reappeared, locking it tight. You turned to the strange space around you. No windows, no light source, but you could see. Dim shapes shifted along the walls, like shadows of things just beyond the surface. Every so often, the walls would twitch, pulsing with breath. "What is this place?" you asked. Ray was breathing hard. Some call it the null, a pocket between. It doesn't follow the rules, but they can't follow us here. Not directly. She moved to the center of the space where a stone pedestal rose from the floor, perfectly smooth, etched with symbols that pulsed blue. "They call this the anchor," Ray said, placing a hand on it. "It's what's been keeping the worst of them out all these years. And now, it's weakening," she whispered, "because they're feeding." You didn't want to ask what they were feeding on. You already knew. "They copy people, don't they?" you said quietly. "They're walking around out there, wearing skin that isn't theirs." "Yes, and they do more than just mimic." She knelt beside the anchor, revealing a slit down its center. "This is how we fight them," she said. "But it comes with a cost." The pedestal opened, and inside was a mirror. Shattered. Fractals of infinite reflections gleamed beneath the stone. "I need you to look," Ray said, voice trembling. "Not at yourself. Through. Find the one that doesn't blink when you do. That's the piece of it still inside you." You hesitated, heart pounding, but you stepped forward and looked into the mirror. In the seventh shard from the left, your reflection smiled. You didn't. The reflection that smiled. The shard smile widened as you stared. Not your mouth, not your face, but twisted into your features. The reflection in the seventh shard watched you with a grin carved too deep, too knowing. You stagger back. "That's not me." Ray was already reaching into a pouch on her belt, pulling out something small, a needle of dark metal, sharp as a thought. "It's latched onto you," she said, eyes wide. "That's why it found us. It left a part of itself inside. A seed. I didn't let anything in." "It doesn't need permission," Ray said. "It needs a crack. You broke the mirror. That was enough." Your reflection still smiled in the shard. Then it blinked, not like a person, but all at once. Eyes, mouth, skin, folding and shifting in a sick, fluid motion like a creature changing shape inside you. "Kill it," you whispered. Ray hesitated. "There's a way," she said slowly. "But you won't like it. Tell me." Ray handed you the needle. "This is made from obsidian, pulled from the dream side. If you drive it through the shard with your reflection, it won't just destroy the image. It'll sever the tether." You looked at the sliver of metal. It was cold, freezing. It seemed to vibrate slightly in your palm, like it knew where it was going. "And if I miss?" Ray met your eyes. "You won't." You raised the needle. The reflection in the shard stopped smiling. Its face warped suddenly, mouth opening wide in a soundless scream. Then it pushed back. The shard bulged outward as if the thing inside was trying to climb through. You didn't wait. You drove the needle into the shard. The glass exploded, not outward but inward, imploding in a shatter of light and sound. For a moment, you were weightless, falling through a scream that didn't come from your mouth, but from inside your bones. When it was over, you collapsed to the floor. Ray knelt beside you. You did it. Your ears rang. I still feel it, you whispered, like it's just out of reach. That's the scar, she said. It never fully goes away. Behind you, the anchor pulsed brighter. You sever its hold. That means we can find it. You looked up. Ray had opened a second panel on the pedestal, revealing a map of the town and dozens of glowing red marks, each one shaped like an eye. They're everywhere, you breathed. Ray nodded grimly. And now we go hunting. The eye map. The map glowed faintly in the dark chamber, casting eerie shadows across the shifting walls. Each red eye pulsed slowly, steady, rhythmic, like the town itself had a heartbeat. How many are there? You asked. Ray traced the symbols with her finger. 73. No, 74. It just added another. You leaned in. The newest mark was just a block from where you'd first seen the thing outside your window. They're spreading, you said. They always do. The more people believe what they see, the more they let it in. Your chest tightened. So everyone on this map is either being watched, Ray said softly, or already gone. She touched the largest eye near the town square. That one's the source. It's where the original breach started. The rest are just seeds. You stared at the pulsing marks. Some clustered around schools, hospitals, a few near quiet residential neighborhoods like yours. We can stop it, you asked. Ray hesitated. We could try, but it won't be clean. She closed the map panel. We'll need to mark every major node with a counter sigil. Anchor points like this place, but weaker. Temporary wards. They'll push the watchers back if we act fast. How much time do we have? She glanced at the walls, where the surface had begun to ripple. Not much. You followed her deeper into the null, winding through tunnels that bent at unnatural angles, some leading straight up, others seeming to double back on themselves. Gravity shifted subtly as you walked, and more than once, you stumbled sideways into what should have been the ceiling. Eventually, you reached a chamber shaped like a cube flipped inside out. At its center was a circle drawn in bone dust and red thread. This is how we get out, Ray said, but not just anywhere. She handed you a piece of broken glass wrapped in leather. Keep this with you. It shows reflections that don't match. If something looks wrong, you run. You nodded, clutching it tightly. Ray knelt and began whispering in a language you didn't recognize. The circle began to glow. Where are we going first? You asked. She looked up. To the school. You blinked. Why there? She didn't answer immediately. Then, because the first child to vanish did so there. And if what I've heard is true, he's still walking around inside it. The circle flared, and the null spat you both back into the waking world. Into a hallway with flickering lights, lockers rusted shut, and the unmistakable sound of a child's voice, whistling a tune that ended halfway. The whistling child. The school was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that smothered echoes, that made you feel like you were being watched from all sides, but the watcher never blinked. You and Ray stood in the old hallway, the floor tiled with faded green and white squares that creaked underfoot. Lockers lined the walls, all sealed with layers of dust and decay. Some had deep gouges carved into them, as if something with claws had dragged its hand across the metal. And then the whistling began again, high-pitched, childlike, but broken, for notes, rising, falling, then silence. Then again, stay close, Ray whispered, raising the mirror shard she'd given you earlier. It shimmered with a faint blue sheen in the dim light. He imitates sounds he heard before he vanished. Never finishes the song. Can't. He doesn't remember how it ends. You swallowed hard. The air was heavy with mildew and something more acidic, like old blood soaked into paper. The whistling grew closer. Around the corner, past a row of dusty windows, a small shadow flitted by. Ray froze. There. You stepped carefully to the corner and peeked. A boy, 8, maybe 9, wearing a striped red and white shirt, jeans, barefoot on the cold tile. His hair was matted, his skin a little too gray. He stood facing a broken chalkboard in a classroom, scratching something into it, his own name, over and over. And beneath the name, dozens of tiny eyes drawn in chalk. Some crossed out, others open wide. "Is that really him?" you whispered. Ray nodded. "Tyler Griggs. Vanished from the playground 4 months ago. No one ever found his body." As you watched, the boy stopped scratching. He slowly turned and smiled. Only his face didn't move right. The muscles rippled the wrong way, as if someone inside his skin was trying to copy what a child's smile should look like. He raised one hand. It had too many fingers. "Run," Ray whispered, backing away. But you didn't move, because the boy had started whistling again. And this time, you remembered the tune. It was one your mom used to hum, from outside your window. The Imitation Game. The tune spun through your head like a thread unraveling. Each note was too perfect, too precise, like it had been rehearsed 1,000 times by something that didn't understand why it was being sung, only that it had to be. Your hand tightened around the mirror shard. The glass shimmered again. You looked into it and saw Tyler, but not as he stood before you. In the reflection, his skin peeled in slow, oozing layers. His eyes were solid black voids. His mouth stretched too wide, revealing rows of glassy, inhuman teeth. And behind him, something much taller crouched within his shadow, wearing him like a coat. Ray moved first. "Back! Go back now," she hissed, grabbing your arm. But Tyler moved faster. He darted forward, faster than any child should, his limbs twitching in unnatural bursts. His mouth opened in a scream, but no sound came out. Only static. You raised the shard just as he lunged. The glass caught the light, and the thing inside Tyler screeched. It jerked back like it had been burned, collapsing against the chalkboard and convulsing. Lines of symbols burst across its skin. Runes, you realized, burning into its flesh. Ray tossed a pouch toward it. "Cover your mouth." You obeyed instinctively, clamping a hand over your lips just as the pouch exploded in a burst of ash and scentless black powder. The room spun as the chalkboard cracked straight down the middle. When the dust cleared, the boy was gone. Only the chalk drawings remained. Eyes, hundreds of them, watching, weeping. Ray dropped to her knees, exhausted. That was close. You lowered your hand. What? What was that thing inside him? She didn't answer right away. Her eyes were fixed on the broken chalkboard. It's called a hollow mimic. It replaces what's missing. The longer it stays, the more it becomes. You nodded slowly, heart pounding. He knew the tune. You whispered, "The thing used a song from my house." Ray stood slowly, dusting herself off. "Then it means it's marked you again." That's what they do. They learn from fear. You show them even a flicker, and they feed on it like a beacon. You looked down the hallway. The shadows hadn't gone away. They never would. "What's next?" you asked. Ray picked up the mirror shard and handed it back. "Now we go to where the first adult vanished," she said. "The graveyard." A gust of wind rattled the locker doors. Outside, the sky had turned black. It was only 3 p.m. The grave of no name. The cemetery sat on the outskirts of town, wrapped in gnarled trees that had grown too close together, roots like bones clutching the soil. Even the wind was hushed here. As you and Ray approached, the sky above flickered, not with lightning, but with something beneath the clouds, like movement behind a veil. Ray held a lantern filled with mirror light, a pale blue glow that pulsed gently as you entered the gates. "It doesn't like this place?" she said quietly. "Why not?" She pointed to the iron fence. "Ground is consecrated. Old ways. Not just faith, intent. The people who built this cemetery knew things. Kept certain graves apart. Marked some with symbols that don't show up in daylight." You stepped onto the path. Moss coated everything. Names on headstones were worn smooth. Some graves had been dug up. Not by shovels, but by hands. "Who's the first adult that vanished?" you asked. "Reverend Holt." Ray said. "Caretaker. He went missing 2 weeks after Tyler. No signs. No struggle. Just gone." She led you past a crumbling mausoleum to a section of the graveyard fenced off with twisted wrought iron, and a single stone arch carved above it were 3 words. "He never sleeps." The mirror light flickered harder. Inside the fence, the ground was wrong. The grass didn't move. There were no insects, no birds, just a heavy pressure on your ears, like something was pressing down from above and below. Ray knelt at one grave, a jagged obelisk with no name. This is where he was standing, she said. When he disappeared, you looked around. This grave has no marker. Ray nodded. It's not supposed to. She pulled a thin chain from her pocket and held up a pendulum made of obsidian and bone. It began to spin, slowly at first, then faster, until it jerked to a sudden stop, pointing directly beneath the grave. That's where the mimic took root, Ray whispered. You stared at the soil. It pulsed. Tell me you're not digging, you said. She didn't respond. Just handed you a small, silver-bladed spade. The ground didn't fight you. It welcomed the digging. And 5 inches down, your blade struck something soft. Ray gasped. You cleared the dirt away and uncovered skin. Human, but impossibly flat, like someone had peeled a person's face off and buried it like a blanket. The eyes were still open. They blinked. The living face. The face was warm. Not just soft, not just fresh warm, as if it had been kept alive beneath the soil by something that refused to let it die. Its eyelids fluttered again. Its lips trembled in a silent, breathless whisper. You staggered back, ball rising in your throat. Is that Reverend Holt? You choked out. Ray nodded grimly, her eyes fixed on the impossible thing in the dirt. Or what's left of him. The mimic didn't kill him. It unwrapped him, kept his consciousness tethered to this. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a flask filled with liquid the color of rusted moonlight. A dream purge, she explained. If he's still in there, really in there, we can speak with him for a few moments before the tether breaks. You looked down at the face. It was looking up at you, its eyes wide with panic, with knowing. Will it hurt him? Ray hesitated. He's already in pain. This might be the only peace he ever gets. She uncorked the flask and poured a few drops onto the exposed skin. The effect was instant. The graveyard trembled, and the face screamed. The sound didn't come from its mouth. It came from everywhere. From the trees, the stones, the air. The voice of Reverend Holt, twisted with terror, rage, and the madness of being buried alive without a body. Help me, the voice shrieked. IT sees through me. IT took my shape. It's coming back. Ray gritted her teeth, kneeling beside the face. Holt, focus. Where did it go? The eyes rolled, trying to look at her. Back to the beginning, he hissed. Where you let it in. The mirror. The door that isn't. Then his face melted. The skin collapsed inward like wet paper, shriveling into ash, which sank back into the dirt with a hiss. The grave was empty again. Ray stood slowly, her hand shaking. The door that isn't, you repeated. What does that mean? She looked pale. It's a term from old ritual texts. A mirror not made of glass. A portal made of memory. Someone created a pathway for the mimic to enter. That means there's an anchor mirror, a source. You turned slowly, scanning the shadows of the cemetery. Then we destroy it. Ray gave a sad smile. It's not that simple. That mirror might be part of a person. A memory. A house. If we destroy it wrong, we might let in more. Your stomach turned. So how do we find it? Ray looked back toward the gate. We go to the oldest house in town, she said. The one they never talk about. The one they call Greyholme. Greyholme. Greyholme sat at the edge of the woods, buried in vines and fog like the forest itself was trying to reclaim it. It was 3 stories tall, crooked and swollen with age. The shutters hung limp like broken eyelids. The roof sagged. No birds flew near it. No insects buzzed. Ray didn't speak as you approached. Neither did you. The gate was already open, swinging gently on rusted hinges though no wind stirred. You stepped onto the overgrown path, your foot sinking slightly into wet, spongy soil. It squelched like something rotten was buried beneath every step. You looked at Ray. Who lived here? Her voice was a whisper. The first mirror worker in town. Abigail Gresh. Wait, like the old stories? The woman who saw God in the silver. Ray nodded. They called her a witch. But she wasn't. Not really. She was curious. And she opened something she couldn't close. The front door was unlocked. Inside, The house smelled like old rain and burnt sugar. The wallpaper was torn in long strips. Black mold bloomed in abstract shapes across the ceilings. You stepped into the foyer, where a massive mirror leaned against the wall, shattered into dozens of jagged shards. Each shard reflected something different. One showed you as a child, another as an old man. One was missing you entirely, just Ray alone in a dark hallway. You stepped back from it. "This is where it came through?" you asked. "No," Ray said, eyes scanning the room. "These are echoes, memories caught in dying glass. The source will be deeper, lower." A dull thud echoed from above. You froze. "That came from upstairs." Ray shook her head. "It wants us to go up, which means we go down." She led you to a doorway, tucked beneath the staircase. The wood around it was darker, warped, as if the house itself had tried to seal it shut. The moment she touched the knob, the lights flickered, old gas fixtures coughing to life on their own. You descended into the basement. Each step creaked like a scream. At the bottom, the stone floor was wet, slick with condensation or something worse. Dozens of mirrors lined the walls, none framed, none reflective. All were made of obsidian, black as tar. They weren't reflecting your image. They were showing someone else. A woman, thin, wild-eyed, wearing a dress soaked in ink. She was screaming silently, her hands pressed to the glass. Watching you, Ray approached the largest mirror in the center. "This is it, the anchor, Abigail's final creation." The mirror pulsed, and the glass breathed. Through the mirror, the surface of the mirror warped like a pond disturbed by breath. The screaming woman pressed closer from within, her mouth open in a terrible, soundless wail. Then, suddenly, she vanished, replaced by your own reflection. Only it wasn't quite you. Your mirrored self smiled, but you hadn't. Then it blinked with eyes that weren't your color, black, glinting like shards of night, and raised a hand to beckon you forward. "Nope," you breathed, stepping back. But Ray held firm. "It's trying to disorient you. This isn't just a mirror, it's a passage. Like Holt said, a door that isn't. If we go through, we might reach its nest. Or never come back," you whispered. She nodded grimly. "Either way, it ends here." She reached into her satchel and produced a slim vial of silver fluid, mercury blessed in old rites. "We drink this just before stepping through. It keeps your mind tethered to this side. We get separated, remember your name. Keep it on your lips." She drank first, grimacing, then handed it to you. It burned your tongue like ice and fire all at once. Then, without hesitation, Ray stepped into the glass. You expected a shatter, a collapse, but instead, she melted into it, disappearing like smoke into black water. You followed. The world folded in on itself. Colors inverted. Sound shrank into a distant, echoing pulse. Your body felt stretched like taffy pulled too long, too thin. You couldn't tell how long you were falling, or if you were falling at all. Then, you hit ground, or something like it. Everything was wrong. The reflection world. The ground was black glass. Above you, the sky stretched like a frozen lake turned upside down, swirls of gray and violet clouds reflecting twisted versions of the landscape below. There were no stars, no sun, no wind, but the air trembled with distant whispers, as though the world itself murmured secrets to itself over and over. Ray stood beside you, staring ahead. "Where are we?" you whispered. She swallowed. "Inside the mimic's memory. This isn't just its world, it's its mind." The land ahead was a warped copy of your town, only inverted, impossible. The buildings leaned at wrong angles. Streets looped in on themselves, and mirrors hung in the air like paintings in a gallery, suspended midair with no frames or support. You stepped forward, and the glass beneath your feet rippled like water, distorting your reflection as though the very ground was trying to rewrite you. A low groan echoed through the air. Something huge shifted in the distance. "What was that?" you asked. Ray didn't answer. Her eyes were wide, fixed on one of the floating mirrors. It showed the two of you, standing still, and behind you something watching. You turned. Nothing there, but the feeling remained. Cold, intimate, a pressure at the back of your skull, as though fingers traced your spine from inside. "We have to find the nest," Ray said. "That's the heart of it. It'll be drawn there. Feeding." You nodded, and the two of you pressed on, navigating twisted alleyways and corridors that felt vaguely familiar. Echoes of real places reimagined through the mimic's perception. Occasionally, shapes flickered past the edge of your vision, too fast to track, too slow to dismiss. And always, there were the mirrors. Some screamed silently. Others whispered names you knew. One showed your mother, crying, alone in a hospital room. "She's not even sick," you said aloud. "She might be," Ray murmured. "Or it's a line meant to break you." Up ahead, a massive spire of black crystal rose from the heart of the false town. "Is that the nest?" Ray nodded. "Where the real thing waits." The first shape it ever stole. As you neared it, a mirror cracked beside you, its reflection replaced with something walking toward you. A version of Ray, but her eyes were gone, and her mouth split open, impossibly wide. False faces. The false Ray stepped from a mirror as if through a curtain of smoke. Her limbs moved stiffly, like she was learning how to walk. Her head tilted far too slowly, and the smile she wore didn't match the rest of her face. Ray raised her blade, cold iron, etched with runes older than language. "That's not me," she growled. The thing mimicking her giggled. The sound was broken glass and dripping honey, all wrong. "Don't you remember this face?" it asked in Ray's voice. "It's the first one you abandoned." The real Ray didn't flinch. "You can't bait me." "You already did," the mimic purred. It took another step forward, its body pulsing, shifting, bones elongating, hair slithering like worms through oil. "You left your sister in the fire that I gave her." That made Ray hesitate, just a flicker. The mimic lunged. You barely shouted before Ray was in motion, ducking low, slashing upward in one fluid arc. The blade connected with a sickening hiss, and the mimic shrieked, stumbling back as black ichor poured from the wound in its chest. Its form began to collapse, folding in on itself like a puppet with snipped strings. Before it dissolved entirely, it spoke again, rasping through its melting throat. "You can't kill what you already let in." The ground beneath it cracked, revealing another shard of mirror. And in that mirror, you saw dozens of faces. Your face, each one contorted in pain, horror, or bliss. "Keep moving," Ray said, though her voice shook. "The longer we stay here, the more of us it'll try to wear." You made your way toward the obsidian spire, now close enough to feel the waves of pressure rolling from it, like heat from an open furnace. Only this wasn't warmth. It was memory, broken once. Memories not your own, flooding your skull in flashes. A child buried alive. A dog set on fire in a churchyard. A man watching himself die in his wife's arms. You staggered and nearly fell. Ray caught your arm. "We're getting close," she said, eyes narrowed against the mounting noise in her head. "That means it's getting desperate." Then the earth split in front of you, and something vast and serpentine rose from the crack, its body composed entirely of faces. They writhed over its skin like scales, all of them watching you. The serpent of faces. The serpent towered above you, its body rippling with the shifting, screaming faces of those it had mimicked, consumed, or remembered. Some cried. Others laughed. One, your own, grinned back at you with teeth sharpened to points. It opened its mouth. Rows of human arms reached from its throat, clawing toward the edges of its fanged maw as if trying to pull themselves back to the surface. They writhed and clawed at each other, their moans warping into high-pitched wails. "Don't let it speak," Ray shouted, throwing something small and glittering, crushed glass soaked in salt and silver. The grenade-like object exploded midair, erupting in a burst of blinding white fire. The creature howled, its mirrored skin cracking along its coils. Dozens of the screaming faces burst like bubbles, vanishing with sharp hisses of pain. You raised the jagged mirror shard you'd picked up earlier, your only weapon, and dashed with Ray toward the exposed gap in its belly, where the spire rose like a blackened root. "Go for the nest," Ray yelled. "I'll distract it." "What?" "No." but she was already running, calling the creature to her with a flurry of curses that didn't sound like any human language. The serpent reeled toward her, smashing through buildings of frozen glass and reflective smoke. You sprinted into the crater, glass crunching underfoot. The air shimmered with heat and memory. As you neared the spire, your head flooded with a soundless scream. It knew you were coming. The spire's base was formed of hundreds of melted mirrors, warped and fused, humming with sickly light. In the center, embedded like a heart, was a massive mirror unlike the others. It pulsed with dark fluid, as if alive. Inside, a single eye floated, watching you. Not moving, not blinking, just watching. You felt your thoughts unravel, your legs trembling. Your reflection shimmered in every direction, and each one of them stepped forward toward you. Then they screamed in unison, distorted, furious. You raised a shard high. Remember who you are. Ray's voice echoed, distant now. Say your name. You did, and plunged the shard into the heart of the mirror. It didn't break. It screamed. The entire world around you convulsed. The spire shuddered, and from far behind you, Ray screamed too. Shatterpoint. You turned from the pulsing core, your heart jackhammering as Ray's scream echoed through the mirrored realm. The serpent had her pinned against the ruins of a glass bell tower. One massive coil coiled around her waist. She struggled, slashing her blade wildly, but it barely slowed the thing. Ray! You ran, the air vibrating around you with the shatter scream of the wounded spire behind. It wailed like a dying beast, sending spiderweb cracks shooting out across the obsidian plain. Every mirror in the mimic world trembled. A storm of glittering fragments rained down as floating reflections shattered midair. The serpent turned its massive head toward you. It saw what you'd done, and for the first time, it hesitated. Ray took the chance. She drove her blade upward, sinking it deep into the creature's flesh. Black ooze poured out like tar mixed with starlight. The serpent shrieked and reared back. Ray dropped to the ground, landing hard and rolling beside you. We have to finish it, she gasped, holding her ribs. The mirror. It's not enough. That was just the lock. You helped her up. Then where's the key? She looked at you wild-eyed. We are. The ground buckled beneath you both as the mimic's realm began to collapse. The spire's pulse quickened, every heartbeat of it echoing like thunder. Mirror towers fell, scattering pieces of stolen time. You saw your childhood home collapse into a sinkhole. Your old school catch fire. Friends, strangers, even yourself. Trapped in shards, sucked back into the mirror world's unraveling dream. We have to get back, Ray shouted over the noise. The anchor's breaking. If we're still here when it goes, we become part of it. But how? Jump. You stared at her, confused. Then she pointed. Behind the serpent, a rift had opened in the sky. An oval-shaped tear in reality, flickering like a mirror's surface under lightning. Through it, you saw your basement, the real world. Safety, breath. But between you and it stood the serpent. It loomed over you, bleeding faces, its mouth gaping open in mirrored rage. It lunged. Ray didn't hesitate. She threw the mirror blade, spinning like a star, right into its core eye. The serpent screamed, collapsing mid-lunge. Geo, she cried. You ran toward the rift as the ground split behind you, the world screaming your name, trying to hold you in its dying dream. And then, you jumped, back through the glass. You flew through the rift like a ragdoll in a wind tunnel, dragged by a force you didn't understand. Your body spun through layers of shifting color and echo, tumbling through memories that weren't yours. Births, deaths, screams of lovers, secrets whispered in empty rooms. Then, impact. You slammed into the cold, wet floor of your basement. It was overcast outside. Thunder rumbled somewhere far away. Dust fell from the ceiling. You lay there for several seconds, chest heaving, staring at the ceiling light, the real one. Flickering, dim, buzzing with mundane electricity. Ray landed beside you with a grunt, rolling on her side and coughing violently. She pushed herself up, wiping blood from her lip. The mirror behind you both had gone black. The surface was solid now, no longer rippling. It reflected only your exhausted forms. No whispers, no watching eyes, just silence. You sat up slowly. Did we do it? She nodded weakly. We closed the breach. The mimic's nest collapsed. It's trapped, or dead, or both. You both looked at the mirror again. Then Ray picked up the hammer that had fallen beside her and, without a word, smashed the glass into 1,000 pieces. It felt like something in the air sighed, deep, relieved. For the first time in weeks, nothing watched. Ray dropped the hammer. That thing, she began, then stopped. No, it doesn't matter now. You both sat in the debris, breathing. But the stillness couldn't last. Not really, because when you looked over at Ray, she was staring at something. You followed her gaze. In the corner of the room was a mirror shard, one of many. But this one moved, just slightly. You crawled toward it, heart creeping up your throat, and leaned down to see. In its cracked reflection, you saw a version of yourself, standing completely still, staring at you. No emotion, no blink, just silence. Then it smiled, the smile beneath. You stumbled back from the shard, knocking over a dusty crate. Ray was already on her feet, moving fast. She grabbed the piece and wrapped it in a cloth from the workbench without touching the surface again. Her hands trembled. "What was that?" you whispered. Her voice was dry, a remnant, a sliver of it. The mimic world collapsed, but pieces can survive in reflections. We knew this was a risk. "So it's still here?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a roll of silver wire from her backpack and wrapped the cloth-bound shard tight, sealing it shut. Then she stuffed it into a lead-lined box you hadn't seen her bring. "Containment," she muttered. "For now. If we're lucky, it won't find a way to grow." You sat down hard on the bottom step. Your knees wouldn't stop shaking. It smiled at me. "Yeah," she said. "It remembers you. That means you're part of it now." Your mouth went dry. "What?" "It's how the mimic works. Once it watches you, really watches, you become one of its faces. It can't be undone, only mitigated, controlled." You felt like screaming. "But you said we won." "We did," she said. "But winning in this kind of war doesn't mean escaping. It means surviving long enough to watch it back." Silence fell between you. A cold, uncomfortable silence. After a while, you went upstairs. Your house felt alien now. The creaks in the floorboards weren't comforting anymore. Every shiny surface made your skin crawl. You covered mirrors, unplugged screens, anything that could reflect. Ray didn't leave. She stayed in the guest room, keeping watch. That night, she sat in your doorway while you tried to sleep. "You'll feel it sometimes," she said softly in the dark, "like eyes on your back. But you'll learn to tell the difference between paranoia and presence." You blinked up at the ceiling. "Will it ever be gone?" "No," she admitted, "but it'll fear you too." You faced it. You heard it. That matters. You fell asleep with her voice in your ears. But sometime later, you woke up. The room was dark. Ray was gone. And from the hallway, you heard someone breathing, very slowly, very deliberately, right outside your door, the breath beyond. You didn't move. Not first. You lay perfectly still, heart hammering so loud you thought whoever, or whatever, was out there would hear it. The breathing on the other side of the door wasn't Ray's. You knew her patterns, soft and rhythmic. This one was deep, hoarse, like air dragging through torn lungs. Inhale, exhale, then a sound, creak. Something stepped closer. You rolled silently out of bed, gripping the flashlight by your bedside like a weapon. The battery was nearly dead, but the weight of it in your hand gave you a shred of courage. Another step. The floorboards groaned. Then, a tap. On the door. Just one. You couldn't breathe. "Ray?" you whispered. No answer. Only silence, and that awful, steady breathing. You gathered yourself, legs shaking, and crept toward the door. You pressed your ear against the wood. Nothing. No breath. No movement. You held the knob. Turn it slowly. The door creaked open, and there was nothing. The hallway was dark. Cold. Still. No shadows moved. The guest room door across the hall was closed. You stepped out, heart pounding. "Ray?" You called again, louder now. No response. You checked the guest room. Empty. The bed untouched. Your throat tightened. You turned toward the stairs and froze. At the end of the hall stood your reflection. It stood in the long hallway mirror, taller than it should have been. Its limbs were longer, face stretched into a faint, unnatural smile. It did not mimic your movement. You lifted your arm. It did not. It just watched. Then it raised its hand and placed its palm flat against the glass. Behind it, 1,000 other versions of you emerged from the dark within the mirror, all smiling, all waiting. One by one, they raised their hands, too. A sea of watchers, and every last one of them knew your name. Eyes in glass. Your mouth went dry. Every inch of your body screamed to run, but your legs wouldn't obey. That smile, your smile, reflected back at you by a dozen twisted versions of yourself, burrowed into the mirror world like rot beneath a floorboard. They didn't move, but the air vibrated. The mirrors shimmered like heat off pavement, and the hallway around you seemed to dim. Then, top! One of them tapped the glass with a single, sharp nail. The sound cracked through the silence like a gunshot. You flinched. Top! Top, top, top! It became a rhythm. From every reflection, a new pattern. Random, meaningless until it wasn't. You recognized it. It was your heartbeat. A mocking echo. Then the reflections began to change. The faces morphed. Some with burns down one side, others missing eyes, others smiling so wide their jaws cracked open and hung loose. One had hollow sockets where its eyes should be. Another had your exact face, but cried blood down its cheeks, silently mouthing a single word over and over. You stepped back. The mirror's surface rippled. Something inside tried to push through. Enough! The hallway light blazed on. Ray stood behind you, one hand raised, holding something wrapped in copper wire and symbols. She threw it against the mirror. There was a brilliant flash of white light and screaming. The mirror shattered from the inside, glass exploding outward in a shimmering arc. You covered your face as slivers cut through the air and rained down like glittering knives. When the light faded, only the broken frame remained. No deflections, no watchers, only the sound of your breathing and rays. Found it in the crawl space, she said, lowering her hand. It was calling to them, probably leftover mimic tech, some sort of beacon. You looked at her, tears welling in your eyes. They weren't gone. I saw them. Me. Hundreds of me. All wrong. She knelt, brushing glass away. You were a beacon once. But now you're the firewall. It's still watching, yeah. But it can't break through without help. Then let's destroy every mirror in this house. She smiled grimly. Already on my list. House without reflection. By dawn, you and Ray had blacked out or shattered nearly every reflective surface in the house. Bathroom mirrors were smashed and bagged. The stainless steel fridge was spray-painted matte black. Screens, phones, and tablets went into a steel lockbox Ray had reinforced with symbols you didn't recognize. No more reflections. No more windows into that other world. But the air didn't feel lighter. If anything, it had thickened, like the house itself held its breath. Ray sat cross-legged on the floor of the living room, drawing symbols in chalk across the floorboards. You watched, hands trembling as you clutched a mug of cold coffee. What are those? You asked. Wards, she said. Not just symbols, anchors. I'm lashing this place to our reality. No cracks, no entry points. Will it work? She looked up. It has to. If we don't hold the door closed, they'll find a new way in. You nodded, then looked around the house. Everything familiar felt foreign now. The couch you used to nap on. The shelf where you kept vacation photos. The hallway that used to feel safe when you were a kid. All of it felt hollow. You whispered, "What if they're me now?" Ray paused, chalk hovering over the floor. Then, softly, "They are. But that doesn't mean they control you. You've been touched by that world, yeah, but you didn't break. That's the difference. Feels like I did." She stood and walked over, placing a hand on your shoulder. The people who break, they welcome it. They want the thing behind the glass. You fought it. You said nothing. But inside, something shifted. Not relief, resolve. You would not let it win. Not again. That night, as you lay in bed, mirrorless, screenless, surrounded by sigils, the shadows in the corners felt more patient than they had before. They no longer reached for you. They simply watched, waiting. As you drifted to sleep, you dreamt not of fear, but of standing before the mirror with a hammer in hand and smashing it again and again and again until nothing remained. The mimic seed. A week passed. You barely left the house. Neither did Ray. Each day, she taught you more. How to sense reflections even when your eyes were closed, how to read the threads of attention lingering in the air, how to create sigils that hurt whatever might be watching. But none of it truly prepared you for what happened next. It started with a knock at the door. You and Ray were eating in silence when it came. 3 soft raps. Not rushed, not hesitant, just casual. You froze. Ray stood slowly, setting down her spoon. Her eyes narrowed. She tilted her head, listening. Another knock, then a voice. Sweet, familiar. Hey, it's me. I brought coffee. You went cold. It was your voice. Ray motioned you back as she approached the door. She didn't open it. She didn't even speak. She simply stood still and waited. Come on, the voice continued, light and laughing. It's freezing out here. Let me in. The doorknob twitched. Slowly, Ray lifted a small mirror shard, angled so she could see the porch without looking directly. Then she stiffened. Her knuckles turned white around the handle. What is it? You whispered. She didn't answer, but tilted the mirror so you could see. Standing on your porch was you. But not just you. Your face was too perfect, as if sculpted from a memory rather than reality. The eyes didn't blink. The smile was pasted on like wallpaper overwrought. And its clothes? Identical to what you'd worn on the day of the first incident. Let me in. It repeated, knocking again, this time with both hands. Don't speak, Ray whispered. Don't answer it. The mimic began pacing on the porch like an actor between takes. It scratched at the door, humming a lullaby. Then, slowly, it leaned close to the peephole. In a flat, guttural voice, it said, I remember what your bones sound like. The pretender's invitation. You stumbled backward while rising in your throat. Ray didn't move, didn't blink. The thing on the porch leaned closer to the door, pressing its ear against it like it could hear your heartbeat through the wood. Then it whispered, You don't have to hide anymore. You called me. Ray's hand tightened on the mirrored shard. It's bluffing, she muttered. You didn't call it, but something's feeding it, giving it shape, giving it strength. Ow! You whispered, voice shaking. Fear, memory, regret. If it can be you, it can use everything you've ever hated about yourself to become real. Outside, the thing was humming again. Soft and slow. Not a lullaby anymore, but something darker. Discordant, like a song played backward. Then it stopped. Silence felt like a guillotine. The doorknob twisted violently. A sharp thump followed. Then again. It was throwing itself against the door. The frame shuddered. Dust rained from the top of the jamb. We have to go, Ray hissed. The wards won't hold forever. It knows too much. It's not just reflecting you. It's replacing you. You hesitated. But where? We've covered every mirror. There's still one left, she said grimly. The original breach. The shard we locked away. You realize what she meant? The piece from the crawl space. The one she boxed in lead and hid beneath layers of symbols. The heart of the infection. Ray ran to the basement, and you followed. Even before she opened the storage unit, you felt it pulsing. A humming, just outside the range of hearing. Something ancient and hungry. Ray pried off the lead lid. The shard inside had changed. It was glowing faintly now, deep red like something alive behind glass skin. You stared into it and saw a mouth forming. Not yours. Its own. A slow, widening grin that stretched into the edges of the glass. Ray wrapped the box in black cloth and shoved it into her satchel. We're going to end this, she said. You hesitated. By destroying it. Her eyes met yours. By giving it what it wants. And making sure it chokes on it. The gate beneath. The storm broke as you stepped outside. Wind whipped through the trees, and the sky pulsed with lightning, casting long, jagged shadows across the lawn. The mimic was gone, vanished from the porch as if it had never been there. But you both knew it was still watching. Always watching. Ray led you to the edge of the woods behind the house, where the ground dipped and the trees thickened into a gnarled, unnatural cluster. You'd avoided this place your whole life without realizing why. Your childhood dog had refused to come near it. You remembered that now. It was always here, Ray said, pushing back a low branch. This whole place was built over a wound. The mirror didn't create the breach. It was just a mouth. The forest. This is where the rot started. The air grew colder as you descended. There was no sound, not of insects, not of birds. Even your footsteps seemed muted, like the forest was swallowing them. Ray stopped at a cluster of moss-covered stones. She knelt, pressing her hand to the earth, whispering words you didn't understand. The ground trembled. A rectangular hatch slowly revealed itself, iron and ancient. Runes were carved into its surface, half buried in soil. "Help me open it," she said. Together, you pulled. It groaned like something in pain, revealing a staircase spiraling into the dark. Not stone, not wood. Mirror. The steps reflected you as you descended, but your reflections didn't match your movements. They blinked out of rhythm. Their mouths moved silently. Some glared. One grinned. You didn't look again. At the bottom was a wide chamber, circular, covered in shards of broken glass embedded in the walls like teeth. In the center stood a frame. Empty. Waiting. "The gate," Ray whispered. "It's not open yet, but it's hungry. The shard will wake it." You looked around. Your reflections, dozens of them, were gathering in the glass. One looked at you and said in your voice, "Welcome home, shard of the self." The voices came all at once. Your own voice, dozens of variations, speaking over each other, a cacophony of you. Angry versions, sad ones, screaming, whispering, laughing. You never should have looked. You were always weak. You invited us. You are us. Ray dropped the wrapped shard onto the center of the chamber floor. The moment it touched the mirrored stone, the entire room breathed in. Glass shimmered. The frame at the center of the room darkened like water filling from behind. Then, eyes opened across its surface. Hundreds of them. Some were yours. Some were not. And then the thing stepped through. It didn't burst. It didn't crawl. It unfolded, like it had always been there, hidden beneath a thin skin of reality. Towering, twisted, wearing your face and the faces of all the people you'd ever lost, all flickering between shapes. A living memory built from reflections. A parasite of thought. It spoke without lips. A voice in your head that sounded like your mother. Your father. Ray. You see us now. Ray didn't flinch. She began to chant, throwing salt in a wide circle around the shard. Fire bloomed from her fingers, casting flickering sigils against the walls of mirrors. "Do not speak to it," she hissed. "Do not answer it." But it was hard not to, because one of its faces, the one that looked exactly like you, down to the faint scar on your chin, looked at you with tears in its eyes. "I'm not it," it whispered. "You are." That's when the mirrors cracked. All around the chamber, your reflections began slamming their palms against the walls. They were bleeding now from eyes and mouths and open wounds that hadn't been their seconds before. Their screams weren't just sound. They vibrated inside your chest like pressure waves, threatening to shake you apart. You dropped to your knees, blood from your nose, eyes watering. The shard glowed, bright, blinding. Ray's voice grew louder, shouting now. The sigils pulsed in time with her words. Then came the sound of shattering. The frame collapsed inward like a lung imploding. The creature let out a sound like a dying chorus. It reached for you. Ray screamed, "Now!" You picked up the shard and plunged it into your palm. Bleeding reflection. The moment the shard pierced your palm, your vision fractured. Not in a metaphorical way. Your entire field of view split into dozens of versions of reality, like a kaleidoscope of memories. You were standing in a mirror chamber, but also in your bedroom, your childhood home, a hospital corridor you'd never walked down. All at once, you existed across them. And so did it. The thing screamed, not with fear but rage. It knew what you had done. The blood from your palm trickled over the shard, and the mirror beneath you responded violently. The sigils Ray had carved ignited in burning white lines that raced across the chamber floor like wildfire. "Keep going," she shouted, barely visible through the trembling light. "You've marked it. That makes you its anchor. You can pull it down into you." Your hand shook as you pressed the shard deeper into your palm. The pain was unreal, not just physical, existential, like tearing away parts of yourself you didn't know existed. The chamber's mirrored walls began to collapse inward, warping. The thing shrieked, its many mouths speaking in reverse. Its limbs twisted, warping through dozens of forms: a man, a woman, a child, a shadow, a mass of writhing glass. You stumbled toward the center of the room. The frame was now filled with pure, churning darkness. Eyes floated in it, blinking out of sync. Some of them were yours. You held the bleeding shard up and screamed into the dark. "You don't own me." The mirror thing surged forward. It struck your chest with full force and passed into you. Not through flesh, through soul. You felt it try to root itself, to worm into your thoughts, to make a home of your mind. It found memories, fears, guilt, weaknesses, but you held firm. You grabbed the shard with both hands, ignoring the agony, and drove it into your own reflection. The mirrored world shattered, and the creature with it. The glass walls exploded outward in a storm of light and sound. Ray tackled you to the floor, shielding you with her body as the chamber collapsed. When the silence came, it was total. The hollow echo. When you opened your eyes, everything was still. The chamber was gone. The mirror frame had vanished. No walls, no ceiling, just a flat expanse of scorched earth and fractured glass, glinting under a cold, gray sky. The forest above was nowhere to be seen. Only a horizon stretching endlessly in every direction, as if you'd fallen between the cracks of the world. Beside you, Ray stirred. Her face was pale, lips cracked, bleeding from one ear. "Are we dead?" you asked, voice hoarse. She laughed, weakly. "Not yet." You sat up. Your palms still throbbed where the shard had entered, but the wound had closed, sort of. In its place was a deep, black scar, shaped like an eye. It pulsed slightly with your heartbeat, and you could still feel it inside you. The thing wasn't gone. It had been driven inward. Trapped. Ray looked at your hand and went still. "It's inside the mark," she said. You nodded. "I know." For a long moment, you both sat in silence. Then she spoke again, softly. "This place, it's not the chamber anymore. It's you. We're inside you." You stood, looking around at the strange, shattered landscape. Reflections in the glass fragments at your feet still showed the old you, lost, afraid, small. But the reflections in your scar were different. Not you. Not anymore. "They said I called them," you murmured. "Do you think that's true?" Ray stood beside you, steadying herself on your shoulder. "Maybe. Or maybe you were just the only one who could see them clearly. Some people are born facing a cracked mirror." You looked down at your hands, at what you'd done. "Can I get rid of it?" Her answer came slowly. "No, but you can choose what to do with it." You clenched your fist. The mark pulsed again, and in your mind, you heard a voice, low, distant, like it was speaking through static. "We are not done." You looked at Ray. "We go back," you said. "Back." You nodded. "To every mirror, every gate. We find the others it touched." Ray's mouth curved into a grim smile. "You're thinking of hunting it." "No," you said. "I'm thinking of finishing it." Together, you turned toward the horizon. Through the first glass, the world around you began to flicker as Ray traced a circle around your feet with the last of her chalk. The scar in your palm ached, vibrating with each mark she made in the dirt, each symbol tugging the invisible thread that now tethered you to the dark. "Ready?" she asked. You nodded. She finished the last line, then pressed her thumb into your scar. The sensation wasn't pain, it was recognition, like something ancient turning to look at you from deep within a forgotten place. The sky cracked. One by one, mirrors began to rise from the soil, framed, freestanding glass panels emerging in a ring. Each one showed a different place, but all of them felt wrong. Streets too quiet, rooms frozen mid-motion, places where the reflection was just slightly delayed. Ray studied them. "It's like a hive," she said. "Each one a different corridor in the same maze. But only one leads to the source." You approached the nearest one. A bathroom mirror, cracks across the top, steam still clinging to the glass. Through it, you saw yourself, wet hair, hollow eyes. But it wasn't your bathroom. You'd never seen that tile before. The reflection blinked. You didn't. Ray reached out and shattered the panel with her palm. Glass rained down, harmless, and the false image dissipated like smoke. They'll try to lure us, she said. Trap us in loops. Guilt. Familiarity. Don't trust anything in there. The second mirror showed a child's bedroom. Familiar. You leaned closer and saw the poster on the wall. Dinosaurs, exactly the ones you'd had as a kid. The bed was unmade. On the floor sat a younger version of you, sobbing into your knees. You felt yourself take a step forward. Hey, Ray grabbed your arm. Look, the child lifted its head. It didn't have a face. You stumbled back. Ray waved a burning charm across the mirror surface. The image writhed, then vanished. You were sweating, and this was just the start. Into the hollow room. The third mirror didn't show a room. It showed a corridor, long, colorless, lined with doors that pulsed slightly, as though they breathed. The light was dim, the floor polished. At the far end stood a figure. Motionless. You couldn't make out its features, just that it was facing you, and its head tilted the second your gaze met it. This is the one, Ray whispered. How do you know? Because it's watching. You stepped forward. The mirror didn't break this time. It accepted you. Your hand passed through like mist, and the moment your body followed, your stomach lurched like you were falling. Then your feet struck ground. You were inside the hallway. It was longer than it had appeared, stretching into the dark like some warped hotel corridor. The air was heavy. The lights buzzed overhead, flickering at odd intervals. The doors lining the hall had no handles, only eye-sized peepholes, black and deep and impossibly empty. Ray stepped beside you and touched the wall. It's alive, she said, or dreaming. A door opened on its own. A quiet click, soft and polite like it was inviting you. Beyond it, nothing, just a void. Not darkness, not shadow, absence. You felt a pressure in your ears, a whisper under the skin. Remember, something moved within the void. You leaned closer. Ray stopped you. It's using memory against you. Try to lure you into a loop. We stick to the hallway. You nodded, but a part of you wanted to step through. Something in that emptiness knew you. Promised understanding. Closure. You looked at Ray. What happens if we go through the wrong one? We don't come back out. Ahead, the hallway twisted. The figure at the end turned and walked around the corner. You and Ray followed. As you moved deeper, the air began to change. Not in temperature, but in gravity. The farther you walked, the more you felt like your own weight was being manipulated. You weren't walking anymore. You were being pulled. And then another door opened, this one different. It had a mirror mounted to it. And in the reflection stood your father, dead 20 years, holding something behind his back. He smiled, what the mirror remembers. Your breath caught. Your father stood perfectly still in the mirror's reflection, but the hall behind you remained empty. The image didn't match reality. He shouldn't be there, but he was. I never got to say goodbye, he said gently. The voice was perfect, exactly as you remembered. It pulled something deep inside you, grief you hadn't unpacked in years. You stepped closer before realizing Ray was gripping your arm hard. Don't listen. It's not him, she hissed. But the reflection tilted its head with that same warm expression your dad always wore when he tried to comfort you. You were so small when I left, he said. I didn't want to go. I didn't mean to. You swallowed hard. Show me what's behind your back, you said. He smiled again, the way he used to when he thought you were being clever. Are you sure? Ray stepped in front of you. Break the mirror. Now, you raised a shard of glass still tied around your wrist. The eye scar on your palm began to burn. I said, show me. The reflection began to twitch. The smile didn't change, but the head started to jitter, vibrating slightly. The hands moved faster than humanly possible, pulling a black object from behind its back. A box, wrapped in skin. The voice no longer matched your father. It was layered now, too many voices, all whispering at once. You are a gate. We are the key. You slammed the shard into the mirror. It didn't break. The surface absorbed the glass. Your hand went through it, and instantly, your mind was filled with voices. Every lie you told, every secret you'd buried, every moment of pain you thought you'd forgotten. You staggered back, bleeding from your nose. The mirror grinned. Ray grabbed your hand and slammed it into the wall next to the door. The wall pulsed, and with a shriek like shattering crystal, the mirror cracked down the center. It howled. "Run," she shouted. You didn't argue. As you bolted, the door behind you burst open, spilling a flood of teeth onto the floor. Not bodies, not bones, just teeth. Thousands of them. The door without a room. You and Ray sprinted down the hallway, boots skidding on the polished floor slick with teeth. They crunched underfoot, chattering like insects, clicking in chaotic patterns that almost formed words. "Let us in." Behind you, the mirror door pulsed with light. Cracks had spread across its surface, but instead of breaking, it healed, as if reversing time. The reflection inside had changed. It now showed both of you running. But in its version, you weren't making it. You were being dragged back. "I thought you said they couldn't move between doors," you gasped. Ray looked terrified. "They're learning." The corridor twisted again, this time not geometrically, but in logic. The next stretch of hall sloped upward, yet you could feel yourself falling forward as though gravity had inverted. The lights above blinked out, one by one, until only the glow of the mark in your palm guided you. Then the corridor ended. Abruptly, a black iron door stood before you. Heavy, cold, covered in welded chains and nailed-on warning placards in languages neither of you recognized. "No reflection," Ray whispered. "No pe pole. No handed." This door wasn't made to be opened. It was made to keep something in, you muttered. Ray stepped forward, fingers hovering over one of the placards. "This symbol," she said. "It's used in protective bindings. Old ones. It's a seal." Your hand drifted toward the mark on your palm. The scar ached again. The eye pulsed. The chains began to rattle on their own. Then came the whisper. "You carry the key." Ray backed away. No, we're not opening that. We keep going. We find a source." But your feet were already moving. Not willingly. Not entirely. "Something's calling me," you said, voice thin. "Then don't listen," she shouted, grabbing your arm. Too late. The mark in your hand flared white-hot, and the chains snapped with a sharp twang, one after another, flying from the door like snakes. The placards peeled away, and the door opened inward. A warm breeze hit your face. Beyond it was not a room. It was a field of mirrors, as far as the eye could see, each one showing a different moment in your life. And every one of them contained a version of you that had been watched. The field of forgotten faces. You stepped into the field. The ground crunched beneath your boots, not grass, but fine shards of mirrored glass, ground down to dust. The sky above was a strange gray, pulsing faintly like it too was watching. The mirrors stood tall like gravestones, row after endless row, reflecting distorted versions of your past. Ray followed reluctantly, muttering protection charms under her breath. Each mirror you passed flickered, as if sensing your presence. One showed you as a child, hiding in your closet. In the mirror version, a shadow crouched behind you, long fingers poised above your shoulder. In another, your teenage self sat on your bed, eyes vacant, while something peered from inside your computer screen. Its face was featureless, just a smooth sheet of stretched skin where eyes and mouth should have been. You turned to Ray. "These are all real. I remember these moments. But we never saw them before," she said, voice tense. "That's what it does. It watches and hides, always behind glass. Feeding." A wind stirred. All at once, the mirrors began to hum. Low at first, then rising into a chorus of overlapping voices. Yours, Ray's, strangers. Thousands, maybe millions. You pressed your hands to your ears. What are they saying? Ray strained to listen, eyes wide with horror. "They're asking, which one is real?" You turned, and suddenly you were in the mirrors. All of them. But they weren't the same. Some of your reflections moved slower, some faster. One stared straight at you, lips moving independently. "We are what remains." The mirror shattered. Then the next spoke. "We are the memory of your forgetting." Another shattered. Ray grabbed your arm. "It's a trap. It wants you to doubt who you are. If you forget, it takes your place." You looked down. Your reflection was missing from the nearest mirror. Then where? You didn't finish. Because someone stepped out from behind a row of mirrors. Someone who looked exactly like you. But the eyes were empty, and it was smiling. The reflection that walks. The copy of you stood completely still, hands at its sides, head tilted just slightly, eyes like fog glass. It didn't blink. It didn't breathe. But when you stepped back, it stepped forward. Ray moved between you and the thing. It's a mimic, she said. A fractured one. It's not fully bound. It's testing you. The reflection smiled wider. Its teeth a little too many, just a fraction too perfect. I know how you dream, it said in your voice. You clench your fists. What do you want? The mimic blinked slowly. I want to go home. You're home. I've been patient. Ray pulled a vial from her belt and shattered it at her feet. A thin silver circle glowed outward from the point of impact, spreading until it surrounded both of you. The mimic hissed and stopped short. It raised one hand and pressed it against an invisible wall of the ward. Its skin rippled like glass under stress. I've watched, it whispered. So long. Through screens. Through glass. Through the dark between dreams. I know your rhythm. Your guilt. Your failures. You stare back at it. Then you know I won't let you take anything. Its head twitched. Once. Twice. Then again, each motion sharper. I don't need permission anymore. The mirror field groaned. All around, the other reflections began to move. Thousands of you coming to life in the frames. Some wept. Some laughed. Others clawed at their glass prisons with cracked, bloody nails. A few simply turned away, as if ashamed. Ray tightened her grip on your wrist. We've overstayed. The field's waking up. From the distance, a rumbling began. A low quake that traveled up your legs and into your spine. The mirrors began to shift, their bases sliding apart like a puzzle reassembling. Ray looked around, calculating. There's a center, she said. A source. A root mirror. That's where it's anchored. We sever it, and we can leave. You finished. She nodded. You looked at the mimic, which still watched you silently from the edge of the circle. You know where it is, don't you? You asked it. Its expression didn't change, but it said, I'll show you if you bring me with you. No, Ray said instantly. But you were already wondering, if you didn't agree, would you ever find it? The dealing glass. The mimic stepped sideways, mirroring your every movement. It didn't break eye contact. The shimmer of the silver ward Ray cast still pulsed between you, barely holding back its presence. Agree, it said again. Let me walk with you. Just until the end. Just until we reach the root. No way. Ray snapped, her voice sharp. That thing is bait. You let it too close, it'll crawl under your skin and stay there. I don't need permission anymore. The mirror field groaned. All around, the other reflections began to move. Thousands of you coming to life in the frames. Some wept. Some laughed. Others clawed at their glass prisons with cracked, bloody nails. A few simply turned away, as if ashamed. Ray tightened her grip on your wrist. We've overstayed. The field's waking up. From the distance, a rumbling began. A low quake that traveled up your legs and into your spine. The mirrors began to shift, their bases sliding apart like a puzzle reassembling. Ray looked around, calculating. There's a center, she said. A source. A root mirror. That's where it's anchored. We sever it. And we can leave. You finished. She nodded. You looked at the mimic, which still watched you silently from the edge of the circle. You know where it is, don't you? You asked it. Its expression didn't change, but it said, I'll show you if you bring me with you. No, Ray said instantly. But you were already wondering, if you didn't agree, would you ever find it? The dealing glass. The mimic stepped sideways, mirroring your every movement. It didn't break eye contact. The shimmer of the silver ward Ray cast still pulsed between you, barely holding back its presence. Agree, it said again. Let me walk with you. Just until the end. Just until we reach the root. No way. Ray snapped, her voice sharp. That thing is bait. You let it too close, it'll crawl under your skin and stay there. The mimic looked at her, unblinking. I only want what was taken. You didn't answer right away. Instead, you looked out across the mirror field. In the distance, a single spire of obsidian glass stood taller than the rest. Dark, still, humming with energy. Something in your gut told you. That's it. That's the root. We can find it without him, Ray whispered urgently. You don't need. But it's me, you said softly. It knows the way, because I've already been there. Or at least, some version of me has. You stepped forward. Ray grabbed your arm. Don't invite it in. I won't. You turned to the mimic and gestured. Lead the way. But no tricks. You stay in front. The mimic grinned. Its face twitched, just once a ripple across the skin like water disturbed, and it nodded. Together, the three of you walked. The mirrors parted before you, the glass trembling as the mimic passed, like they recognized him or feared him. As you walked, Ray drew sigils in the air behind you, wards that shimmered and flared with weak, flickering light. He's bleeding reality, she muttered. Where he walks, the lines blur. If he touches you, touches your reflection, you'll never come back. The field grew quieter the farther you went. The mirrors no longer whispered, no longer showed images. They stood black and empty now, waiting for the final moment. The spire drew closer. Your mimic turned to look at you over its shoulder. Do you remember, it said, when you were 6 and the mirror in your mother's room cracked while you stared too long? That was the first time I saw you clearly. You shivered. I remember. And now I want you to see me clearly, it said. And without warning, it stepped into a mirror and waved for you to follow, inside the pain. Ray grabbed your wrist the moment your foot lifted. You step into that mirror, and we're done. You hear me? I can't follow you in there. But the mimic was already inside, its face staring out from the glass surface like it was submerged in dark water. The reflection around it shimmered, showing not you, but the world as it remembered it. Your childhood bedroom, old toys scattered on the floor, light through the curtains, and a black shape standing behind your younger self, nearly invisible in the shadow of the closet. I have to go in, you said. Ray's jaw clenched. Then I'll hold the tether. 5 minutes. You hear? 5. And if you're not back, I drag you out the hard way. You nodded and stepped forward. The mirror wasn't cold. It was warm, like skin. You passed through like breaking the surface of a pool. But instead of water, it was memory, thick and slow and familiar. The mimic stood beside you now, unchanged, the world around you rearranged into a perfect replica of your room from years ago. Everything was exact, even the smell. The mimic didn't look at you. It stared at the closet door. That's where I first stepped in, it whispered. The moment you blinked too long. You thought you imagined me, but I slipped through. You approached the closet. The door creaked open. Inside, there was no monster, only a mirror, one you didn't remember ever owning. The mimic reached toward it. This one leads to the spire, the root, but the passage requires recognition. You must name me. You stared at it, heart hammering. It stared back. You are me, you whispered. No, it replied. I'm what you left behind. Give me my name. Behind you, the mirror world began to warp, walls bending, shadows stretching. You saw other versions of yourself watching from the windows, waiting. Your name is Regret, you said. The mimic smiled, and the mirror inside the closet shattered outward, forming a swirling vortex of black glass. It bowed, gesturing to the spiral beyond. To the root, it said. Descent through the shard spiral. You stepped into the spiral. It wasn't like walking. It was like falling forward through time and reflection. Your body pulled through jagged corridors of broken images. Every shard you passed showed a different you. You running. You screaming. You staring back with eyes cut out. A version of you trapped behind a glass wall, pounding, mouthing, don't let it in. The mimic, Regret, drifted beside you. Unfazed. These are not just possibilities, it said. They are attempts. Every time you hesitated. Every time you turned from the mirror instead of facing it. You spun in place. What happens if we fall into one? Regret shrugged. Then you become it, and I will continue without you. You didn't like how calm he was. Ahead, the shard began to glow red, the spiral pulling tighter. A heartbeat echoed through the tunnel, slow, thunderous. Not yours, not Ray's. The thing's. The core was near. At last, the shards widened into a chamber, a sphere of polished obsidian. its floor made of endless, overlapping mirrors. In the center stood the root mirror, a perfect oval, taller than any of the others. It pulsed faintly with a red, internal glow. You could feel it watching. No, not watching. Judging. Regret approached the root mirror and placed a hand on it. "This is where I was born," he said. "Where your forgotten self was cast away. You thought closing your eyes meant safety. You thought forgetting meant survival. But every fear ignored becomes a child left alone." The mirror rippled, and a shape began to push forward from within. It was not you. It was the thing, now taking form. Long limbs, a torso that unfolded in glassy segments, a head that split open to reveal every version of your face inside, layered like petals. It stepped out of the mirror, silent but heavy with presence. Regret stepped back. "This is yours to face," he whispered. The thing that watches did not speak. It reached for you, and your reflection did not follow, because now you had none. The mirrorless, the absence of your reflection struck harder than the thing's approach. It was like a scream with no sound, like a shadow that forgot it belonged to something real. Ray's voice crackled in your ear, somehow still tethered. "You're bleeding out of sync. The tether's weak. Whatever you're seeing, it's not just memory anymore. It's identity." The thing that watches stepped forward. Its many faces, the versions of you, rotated and slid aside to reveal something worse behind them. A formless eye. Not human, not organic, just void and motion. It stared at you. You felt it peel your name away. Regret stood to the side now, silent, watching, waiting. His allegiance was neither yours nor the thing's. "What do you want?" you asked, breath shaky. The thing did not speak, but in your mind it whispered, not in words, but in absence. You felt the shape of the demand. It wanted final surrender. Your memories, your failures, your guilt, your sense of self. "You've watched," you whispered aloud, "but you've never lived." The thing tilted its head. "You only exist because I looked away," you continued. "Because I tried to forget, but I remember now." And you reached behind you, plunging your hand into the spiral, grabbing hold of the one memory you had tried hardest to bury. The funeral, your brother's, the mirror in the mortuary that you refused to look into. You pulled it forward. A jagged mirror formed in your grip, cold, weighted with grief. And it showed your face, your true face, tear-streaked and raw and unhidden. You raised it to the thing. It recoiled. The swirling faces began to crack. The core, I flared red. "I won't forget anymore," you said. "You live in forgetting." "But I remember everything now, even the parts that hurt." The thing shrieked, not aloud, but through the very framework of the mirror realm. The glass beneath your feet shattered outward. Regret stepped forward, placing a hand on your shoulder. "You've named yourself," he said. "Now name me. One final time." You turned to him, eyes clear. "You are not my regret. You are my warning." And with that, the mirror behind the thing splintered and the spiral collapsed inward. Collapse and revelation. The spiral imploded, the chamber folding in on itself like glass caught in a storm. Every shard, every reflection, every half-lived version of you was drawn into the root mirror's breaking surface, the thing shrieking as it was pulled apart. The eye at its center split open one final time, revealing a dark pupil filled with stars, a void of potential, of lost choices. You felt yourself being dragged toward it, your feet slipping across the mirror floor, gravity no longer obeying any natural law. "Hold!" Regret shouted beside you, his voice no longer calm. He pressed both hands into your back, anchoring you as wind and force tore your clothes and skin. "You've named me. Then let me do my part." With a cry, he pushed you away from the mirror and threw himself in. The thing's scream changed then, less triumphant, more afraid. Regret's body collided with the eye at the heart of it, and the void began to fuse with him, taking in every version he had been, every shard of guilt he represented. He was claiming it. The glass howled, the root mirror shattered, and suddenly, you were falling. You landed hard, but it wasn't in a void. You were in your own home, on the floor, face down in front of the hallway mirror. The glass was intact, Still, reflecting only you, and just you. You sat up slowly. Your limbs trembled. Your mind spun, but you felt whole. There was a voice, Ray's, faint and choked, over the comm still clinging to your ear. "You're back," she said. The mirrors stopped bleeding. "I thought I lost you." You looked at your reflection. You had changed. Just a little. In your eyes, something deeper, wiser, maybe older. "Is it gone?" Ray asked. "No," you said, "but it's quiet." You looked into the mirror, and for the first time, you weren't afraid. Echoes in the glass. The mirror stayed still for days. No ripples, no whispers, no reflections out of place. You checked it every morning, sometimes holding your breath, half expecting regret's face to peek through, or worse, the things swirling Ida Bloom open again. But there was only you. Ray visited the next evening. She looked hollowed out, like she hadn't slept in days. Her fingers trembled as she traced protective wards along the doorframe of your apartment. "You burned the link," she said, inspecting the hallway mirror with squinted eyes. "Whatever was trying to come through can't. Not anymore. The spiral's gone. The root's gone. And that mimic, regret, he gave everything he had." You didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, he was me. Or could have been. I think he always was. The part one buried, after everything. Ray nodded slowly, then reached into her coat and pulled out a small black mirror, framed in iron. The surface didn't reflect, it absorbed. "For safekeeping," she said, "we'll keep watch on our end, just in case something stirs." You eyed it warily. "You sure bringing the here is smart?" "Not bringing it here," she said, "leaving it with you." You blinked. "What?" Ray set it gently on your table, between a stack of bills and a half-empty coffee mug. "You're connected to it now, deeper than any of us. If it comes back, and it always tries to come back, you'll feel it before anyone, and you'll be able to stop it." Your stomach twisted. "So, I'm what? Some kind of living ward now?" She smiled grimly. "You're the only person who faced it and didn't go mad. That makes you more than a ward. It makes you a warden." You looked at the black glass again. It was cold. It was silent. But somewhere in its depths, just barely, you thought you saw a flicker. Like a watching eye, closed but dreaming. Waiting. The dreaming eye. You started dreaming again. Not nightmares. At least, not at first. Just reflections that lingered too long. In your dreams, you would walk past windows and see things move after you were already gone. Sometimes the reflections didn't match your actions at all. Sometimes they stood still, staring at you as you passed. The black mirror Ray left you with stayed quiet, untouched. You kept it on your dresser, covered during the day, uncovered at night. Something told you that whatever it was holding could only be watched in darkness. One night, around 3 a.m., your dreams shifted. You found yourself back in the Hall of Mirrors, but now everything was dim, dusty, forgotten. You weren't a child this time. You were exactly as you are now, only you weren't alone. Ray stood across from you. She looked older. Her hair was streaked with gray, her eyes tired. In her hand was the same black mirror, only cracked at the edges. "We're slipping," she said. You tried to speak, but the words came out like breath on glass, fogging everything. "The root is gone, but the seed remains," she continued. "It plants itself in silence, in the stillness of forgotten mirrors. Every time someone turns their face away from their own reflection, it grows stronger." She held the mirror up. The crack across it pulsed like a heartbeat. "You're gonna have to go deeper next time," Ray said, "beneath the first realm, to the place even regret feared." You woke up gasping. The black mirror was uncovered, but you hadn't moved it. A new crack now marred its surface, fine, delicate, like a spiderweb. And in the very center of the fracture, the faintest shimmer of a pupil. Open, blinking, and then gone. The seed beneath. The next morning, the crack on the black mirror was still there. It hadn't spread, but hadn't healed either. And when you looked at it too long, you began to feel disoriented, like the room around you was tilting ever so slightly, like you were looking into a hallway that didn't physically exist. Ray didn't answer her phone. No messages. No emails. Her apartment was locked and empty, with no signs of struggle. only the faint scent of burnt sage and chalk symbols fading on her floorboards. It was as if she'd stepped out of phase with the world. That night, you dreamed again. This time, you were not in a hall of mirrors. You were in a tunnel, earthen, pulsing slightly with each step, the walls slick with moisture. The further you walked, the narrower it became, and you had to crouch, then crawl. The light came from nowhere. Or maybe it came from you. Your breath fogged the air. Then you heard it. Not a whisper, not a scream. A nursery rhyme. Faint, off-key. When you see your shadow smile. Don't stay still and don't beguile. Blink and breath and blink again. Or it will wear your shape like skin. The words chilled you deeper than the cold around you. You emerged into a cavern. The roots of a great tree curled around the space like veins. At the center sat a child, no more than 7 or 8 years old. Pale, unmoving, wearing a cracked porcelain mask. In their lap, they held a mirror. Not black, silver. And from its surface, images flickered. Fast, unreadable. The child looked up without moving. Their mask twitched slightly, as if cracking from within. "You came too late," the child said, voice layered with hundreds. "The seed's been awake for a long, long time. And now, it dreams of you." Then the mirror turned toward you. And you screamed. The mirror child. You woke mid-scream, drenched in sweat, tangled in your sheets. The air was thick and stifling, the kind of stillness that only comes just before something happens. Your eyes darted to the black mirror. It was still on your dresser, but this time, it was turned, not facing the wall where you'd last left it, not even tilted slightly. It was facing you directly upright, and across its surface, the spiderweb crack had grown. Now, 5 thin lines spread out like the fingers of a hand pressed against the inside. You approached slowly, heart pounding. The crack pulsed once, and then the faintest breath fogged the inside of the glass. You stepped back, but a whisper, not in your ears, but in your mind, reached you. Come deeper. That night, you prepared, not just mentally, but spiritually. You warded the apartment with every scrap of ritual Ray had ever taught you. Circles of salt, iron filings at the doors, a single white candle beside the mirror. You didn't sleep. You meditated. And just before dawn, as the shadows stretched long across your floor, the black mirror shimmered, its surface turning liquid. A hand pressed out of it, child-sized, porcelain skin with fractures along the knuckles. It didn't come further. It only pointed. You knew what it meant. The seed was dreaming, and it had opened the next layer. You took a breath, touched the glass, ice cold, and let yourself fall through. You hit ground, but not soil. Mirror again. Above you, roots stretched into infinity. But these weren't the symbolic roots of memory or grief. These were the tendrils of creation. Every choice, every reflection, every thought, threaded through the sky like constellations made of nerve and light. And before you stood the mirror child, mask now fully cracked. Behind the broken ceramic, its face was yours, but younger, feral, forgotten. On the first time you turn away, it said, the very first, and it held out the silver mirror again. Time to remember what you forgot. You stared at the mirror in the child's hands, your heart hammering louder with every passing second. It wasn't just silver, it was alive. Images skated across its surface, too fast to follow. Not memories, not quite. Possibilities. Versions of you walking different paths, some alone, some smiling, some bloody. One reflection stood out, an image of you standing in front of your mother's hospital bed. But in the mirror, you turn away. You remember now. You'd refused to say goodbye. You hadn't even looked at her as the machines began to flatline. That, said the mirror child, is where the root first touched you. Your mouth went dry. I didn't know. You chose not to, the child hissed. Its eyes, now glassy versions of your own, darkened. You thought if you didn't look, it wouldn't be real. That if you avoided pain, you could outpace it. But the thing that eye feeds on neglect, on avoidance. The mirror shimmered again. Another image. You, as a teenager, walking past a friend sitting alone and crying at school. You had seen her, paused, and then looked away. 100 reflections, 1,000 decisions, all the small, silent betrayals of presence. The seed grows when the self turns blind, said the child. You felt hollowed out, not from guilt, but from the slow realization that the thing that watches hadn't found you by chance. It had always been with you. You're not showing me this just to shame me, you said. There's a reason. Yes. The child placed a mirror in your hands. You can still prune the root. Cut it out before it blooms. But only if you face everything. Every shadow. You nodded slowly. The mirror in your hands pulsed with warmth and dread. Show me, you whispered. The silver began to flood. Into the flooded self. The silver bled over your fingers, warm and pulsing like lifeblood. The mirror melted into your skin, and the world around you dissolved in a wash of light and cold. You weren't falling. You were sinking, and you weren't alone. Whispers moved through the flood. Not words, but feelings. Guilt, regret, terror. 1,000 versions of you drifted past like ghosts beneath a frozen lake, each frozen mid-action. Closing doors, turning away, covering eyes, walking faster past someone in need. The mirror child's voice echoed all around you. You buried them. So now you must free them. You reach for one, your younger self, standing in the hallway outside your mother's room, fists clenched and eyes squeezed shut. As your hand touched his shoulder, his eyes snapped open, and for a second, you saw her in them. The thing, watching from inside. The boy screamed and shattered in the light. The silver rippled violently. You clutched your chest, gasping as the world twisted again. Suddenly, you were inside another memory. High school this time. The classroom where your best friend had confessed something deep and terrifying, only for you to laugh nervously and brush it off. He sat in the desk now, unmoving, eyes black as pitch. You didn't mean to hurt him, a voice said. But you did. You turned to find yourself face to face with you again. Not the child this time. This version was current, but wrong. Your face, but hollow. Your body, but twitching with movements that didn't belong. The eyes stared through your own eyes. You fed me, it said. You lunged, but your twin dissolved into smoke. The flood grew darker and deeper. You weren't just sinking through your past now. You were falling into the thing's memory. The eye's memory. You landed in a place with no sound. Not silence, absence. You opened your mouth to breathe, and the air was thick with dust. Not dust like earth or ash, dust like the particles left behind by erased people. Faded laughter, forgotten fears. You were inside the eye now. Its memory. This wasn't a realm shaped by you, but by it. The space pulsed like a dying star. Everything tinted with a pale, waxy yellow. The sky was full of windows, floating, spinning, broken, all reflecting different scenes. You turned toward one. In it, a woman stared into a mirror for hours, smiling wider and wider until the muscles in her face tore. No one else saw. No one looked. The eye was there, watching just behind her reflection. Another window, a child locked in a cellar, whispering to a crack in the wall. The thing was inside the crack, learning their voice. Window after window. It had been watching for centuries, waiting for people to ignore it long enough that it could step through the cracks in their awareness. And then, you saw yourself, your earliest encounter with it, forgotten until now. You were 4, hiding in the closet during a thunderstorm, crying. The light had flickered, and in the slats of the door you'd seen it. A tall, thin thing, crouched like a spider, upside down on your ceiling, tilting its head, watching you. You shut your eyes and never remembered it again. Until now, you had seen it before the mirror, before Ray, before the dreams. It had chosen you not for your pain, but for your willing blindness. And now you saw it clearly. In the center of the eye's realm stood the root. A tree made of bone and glass and memory, every branch ending in a face that had turned away. At the base was Ray, wrapped in mirrors, eyes open, barely breathing. Beneath the root, you ran toward Ray, your feet crunching on shards of broken reflections. Each step echoed with 1,000 unseen eyes snapping open. The ground bent beneath you, soft as rotted wood, glass curling like petals where your soles touched. She was cocooned in a cradle of mirrored limbs, like a spider's prey wrapped in memory. "Ray!" you shouted. Her head turned slightly, slowly. Her lips parted, cracked and dry. "You're late," she whispered. You dropped to your knees beside her, reaching out. But as your fingers neared her skin, the mirror branches jerked, drawing taut like tendons. One reflected your own face. Only the eyes were black and watching. "It knows I showed you," she said. "It's punishing me." You scanned the route. So many faces. Some you recognized from the dreams. Others were strangers. All of them flickered. Not dead, not alive. "Hell, it feeds on what we bury," Ray said, her voice thin and fading. "Our guilt, our forgetting. You want to fight it? You have to dig deeper than the roots. You have to kill the seed." A rumble rolled through the realm. Above, the floating mirrors cracked in unison. One by one, the faces in the root opened their eyes. Everyone stared at you. The thing was aware. The ground split, a black chasm opening beneath the root, and a scent hit you. Decay, wet wood, and burning metal. Ray clutched your wrist. Her eyes fluttered open, pupils gone. It's in the first forgetting. The moment you first turn away. You have to go back. You have to remember. Then the chasm swallowed her. You screamed and dove in after her. The first forgetting. You plunged into the abyss like falling through the throat of a sleeping god. The air turned to syrup, thick with sorrow, choked with the weight of every memory you'd ever denied. But deeper still was one memory sealed tighter than the rest. The first. You crashed into a small, dim room lit by flickering candlelight. It took you a moment to realize it was your childhood bedroom. The old wallpaper, dinosaurs and moons, peeled in the corners. Toys scattered across the floor. And in the center of the room, you aged 3 or 4, sitting perfectly still, facing the closet. The door creaked open by itself. A long, pale hand curled around the edge. The child you didn't scream, didn't cry. You simply shut your eyes. The thing that watches slid into the room. It was taller than, thinner, bone white, its arms too long, its fingers twitching like antennae. But it moved slowly, crawling toward the child with deliberate care. It touched your younger self on the forehead, and your child self forgot. The memory froze. You felt it then, the seed, nestled in that one decision, not to face what was there, a self-inflicted blindness. The thing had slipped into that blankness and made it a home. But you were here now, and you were watching. You walked forward, past the still frozen image of your younger self, and stood before the thing. "I see you," you said, its head twisted toward you. The eye opened in its chest, pulsing black-red, ancient and hungry. "You cannot erase me," it hissed. "I'm in every glance turned away, every scream ignored, every whisper beneath the bed that no one answered." You reached down and touched your younger self on the shoulder, and opened their eyes. The moment exploded with white fire, fire in the mirror. The fire didn't burn, it clarified. Every layer of denial, every blurred edge in your memory, peeled away like fog before sunlight. You saw everything now. The thing's slow, methodical entry into your life, using your fear of pain as a door. Not violence, not possession, permission. Your child self blinked and stared at the creature before them, not with terror, but understanding. The thing twitched, recoiling slightly, its form starting to unravel. Its skin split in places, revealing not flesh, but reflections. Tiny, writhing pieces of lives unlived, truths unfaced. "You don't belong here anymore," you said. It snarled. "You can't live without me." "Maybe not," you admitted, "but I can choose not to feed you." You stepped closer. The eye in its chest flickered. You stared directly into it, refusing to look away. "I see you," you repeated. The world around you shook. The child you vanished in a flash of white. The memory room burned away. The thing screamed, not like a person, but like a city collapsing. 1,000 voices unspoken, denied, extinguished. And then, silence. You opened your eyes. You were standing back at the root, but it was ash now. No Ray, no mirrors, just you. A field of cold, gray light. And then you heard a breath. You turned. Ray was there, alive, whole, pale but breathing. You ran to her, dropping to your knees. She blinked up at you. You went back, she whispered. I remembered, you said. She smiled faintly. Then you broke it. You looked around. The watching sensation was gone. Not dormant, absent. Together, you stood. The mirror child appeared once more, older now. Human. They handed you a shard of the broken mirror. No longer glowing, no longer silver. Just glass. For when you forget again, they said. Because you will. Everyone does. You nodded, slipping it into your pocket. A reminder of what hides in silence, of what watches when we turn away. You and Ray walked out of the realm of the eye, toward the place where light returned in full color. Each step grounded in pain, in memory, in truth. And behind you, for once, nothing followed. The end.